Chapter 71. The signal has come. Prepare for entry. The fourth squad, under the command of Yannick, stood at their secret camp. The movements of the members became busy. Externally known as the reserve unit under the 2nd Division, when Vice Commander Vicus reported the unit details to the defense force, they declared themselves as part of the 2nd Division. However, that was not the reality. The 4th Squad received a secret order from Denver. Their mission was not to kill the monster, but to capture it alive. Additionally, they were ordered to eliminate any other defense force if discovered during their mission. Commander Yannick, all preparations are complete. Good. The Lion Knights were composed entirely of veterans with genetically enhanced warriors, but the 20 members of the 4th Squad were selected from among them as elites. Furthermore, their weaponry and equipment were exceptional, taken from the armory within the ship. Apart from the plasma bolters, the standard equipment of the Knights, they had 2 additional pieces of equipment. The first was the autoplasma pistol attached to the reinforced shoulder armor. It boasted superior performance to the original, with improved durability and the ability to synchronize with the user's vision for automatic defensive shooting. The other equipment was the assault pack attached to the backs of all members of the 4th Squad. The assault pack was designed for operations in harsh environments, including space. It not only reinforced the performance of the attached armor, but also featured jetpack and oxygen supply functions. In summary, it could be considered an enhanced version of the reinforced armor. Both pieces of equipment were astronomically expensive, matching the price of a small colonial planet. Even for prime capital Eden, they were so costly that they could only be deployed in truly crucial battles. What about the launchers? For now, bring them along. In response to Yannick's words, a member hoisted a plasma launcher onto his back. With all preparations complete, Yannick and the 20 Knights entered the sewer. Due to the Knights leaping over the contaminated water, the residents in the underground hid in panic. Distance to the target, 1 km remaining. At the upcoming intersection, everyone turn right. It was a maze-like sewer, but the movements of the Silver Knights were decisive. Thanks to various mechanical devices attached to their helmets, real-time information about the sewer's interior was constantly relayed to them. Enemy forces detected 20 m ahead. Everyone bypassed them. While eliminating encountered defense forces was part of their mission, there was no need to deliberately engage if it could be avoided. The Knights moved towards their objective, avoiding the operational radius of the defense forces displayed on their devices. Hold on, everyone, stop. At Yannick's command, the members of the 4th Squad, who had been running against the current, came to a halt. Floating in front of them was a grotesque object, the corpse of a deceased deserter due to the compliance device. Approaching the corpse, Yannick examined its condition. The sight was gruesome. The head had exploded due to the compliance device, and blood was dripping down. Even more horrifying was the state of the abdomen. The abdominal skin showed signs of an internal explosion, and all the organs inside were charred. Inside the belly, compliance devices and signal chips were visible. What has that creature done? Upon inspecting the corpse, Yannick immediately understood what the monster had done. It had forcibly made the deserters swallow compliance devices and signal chips. I need to report this. Yannick picked up his communication device to inform Jacob of the situation. Since the activities of the 4th Squad were confidential, they were not linked to headquarters or cameras. Thus, essential information had to be reported through wireless communication. Fed one to a corpse? Yes. I see. Since there are people nearby, I'll cut it short. Understood. After ending the communication with Jacob, Yannick looked back at his subordinates. Be cautious, everyone. This doesn't seem like an ordinary enemy. Got it. Leaving the corpse behind, they resumed their journey toward the objective. Where they disappeared, the lone corpse swaying along the waves suddenly got sucked into the water. Asterisk, 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 gone. After the Knights left, I, who had been lying not far away from them, got up. Before their arrival, I had been examining a corpse along the path. It was necessary to fill in the final piece of my plan. As I attempted to investigate the corpse further, my auxiliary organ warned me. The rapidly fluctuating water indicated that the knights were approaching at high speed. Rather than facing them head-on, I chose to hide and observe the situation. I have no idea about the enemy's level of armament and numbers coming this way. Observing and, if the enemy seemed manageable, ambushing them. Otherwise, just gathering information and retreating would be the plan. I submerged myself and pressed my body against the ground. Surprisingly, they arrived faster than I thought. Initially, I wondered if they had set up another camp nearby. However, my assumption was incorrect as I observed their appearance. They were wearing assault packs. Assault packs significantly enhanced the functionality of reinforced suits and offered various useful effects. Therefore, in the game, assault packs were so popular among Megacorp players that they were often referred to as mercenaries' uniforms. The presence or absence of this equipment could completely change the planets that could be conquered. Although the price is outrageously expensive, in any case, those who wore assault packs on top of advanced reinforced suits were proudly displaying enhanced physical abilities. In the sewage filled with contaminated water, they moved at an extremely fast pace, almost as if running on flat ground. Thus, they had caught up with the other squads faster than expected. There are 20 of them. Fighting them head-on with all of them equipped with assault packs would be burdensome. While using the symbol of the hunt would lead to an easy victory, the aftermath was the issue. Due to the nature of endurance, I wouldn't collapse immediately, but it would affect my future combat performance. Additionally, losing sanity was also a problem. Sanity and knowledge, these were my essential weapons. Losing either of these would reduce me to a mere beast. Becoming a beast without reason in a situation of fighting multiple enemies is dangerous. Although enemies were generally considered smarter than wild animals, they still categorized me as a wild animal. In such a situation, if the enemies get what they want, it's a shortcut to defeat. Therefore, I postponed the fight momentarily. As a result, the group of 20 did not discover me. The only income I gained from delaying the fight was confirming the enemy's equipment level. The vision system doesn't have much difference among the knights. Despite wearing assault packs, except for a few pieces of equipment, the rest was similar to regular knights. From what I had observed, the enemy's detection methods included heat detection and vibration detection. Vibration detection is ineffective due to the constantly fluctuating waves. Heat detection is the same. Due to soaking in the cold water of the sewage for a long time, my outer layer was practically an ice coating. Even if they saw me through heat detection, I would appear as a rough surface. I've confirmed the level of their perception system. A surprise attack should be easy. The enemies were gone, and it was time to finish my business quickly and follow them. I submerged myself again and examined the melted interior of the corpse. Here it is. Holding a small signal chip in my hand, I gently scratched the combat sewage wall with it. And then I inserted the chips I had been carrying into the remains. I need to use them as a new bait, so they must not be damaged. Since I had discovered a group of knights, the corpse bait had already achieved my first goal. But if it ends here, it's not fun. The reason I safely stored the chips taken from the corpse was for the second plan to complement the first. When chasing maggots, there will be a point where they gather. Either the starting points of the scattered enemies were closer than I expected, or they could assemble earlier for reasons I hadn't considered. At that moment, I planned to create a new bait to shake up the enemies, utilizing the new corpse bait. Those who entered the underground don't know about maggots. Maggots roaming in the sewer were not naturally occurring organisms. They were deliberately released by city administrators for the efficient management of the sewer system. If I had thrown many maggots as bait from the beginning, there would undoubtedly be someone among the city officials questioning me. They might think I'm using maggots for a disruption operation. If they became cautious, well-prepared, and started tracking me, the disadvantage would be on my side. Therefore, I intentionally implanted a signal chip in only one maggot. Before entering, they probably thought I was just catching and eating the employee without knowing the presence of the signal chip. Unfortunately, The knights moved faster than I expected and discovered the corpse. I was planning to eat and dispose of the corpse while collecting the chip. It was an unfortunate accident that they found the corpse before I could carry out my plan, especially when the path to find maggots overlaps with the location of the corpse. Other corpses were far away from the maggots, making it difficult for them to be discovered unless someone intentionally sought the corpses. However, this corpse was unfortunately in the knight's path. Because I allowed it to roam freely without controlling it like a parasite, it became an unexpected incident. However, the fortunate thing was that they didn't know about the maggots. The discovery of the corpse was not a significant problem. I swallowed the remnants of the corpse I was holding without leaving any traces as I continued to chase the 20 knights. After dealing with them, my plan was to return to the hidden location of the chips. Next, I'll create a new bait. Then the enemies would be extremely confused. Now that the bait suddenly becomes 2, once they entered the sewer, it wouldn't be easy to call sewer officials for questioning. During that time, if I escaped, their operation would automatically fail. Of course, I have no intention of running away. As seen when the knights didn't detect me earlier, it's evident that the knights couldn't detect the maggots swimming in the water. I don't know how many soldiers from the city's defense fleet are there, but it's challenging to think that their equipment level is worse than elite knights. If they were barehanded, they could probably sense creatures passing between their legs. If the enemies were barehanded, I wouldn't have gone through all this trouble. In any case, the remaining distance to the maggots is now not much. No other enemies can be sensed around here. The meaning of that statement is clear, one that is highly advantageous for me. I approached one of the knights in the rear closely. Moving submerged and sticking to the sewer floor made almost no sound. The surface around the knight who was running vigorously in the water was in great turmoil. I grabbed his hind legs with the combat limb from underwater. The knight was about to fall. Before he could make a sound, I quickly bit into his neck. With my jaw strengthened by Bite's strength characteristics, I crushed the knight's cervical vertebrae. Meanwhile, the other knights had no idea that their comrade in the rear had been taken down, and they continued to run ahead. Being too fast is also a problem. I ripped off the assault pack from the knight's back and smashed the battery of the powered armor. The light went out from the powered armor, and the knight's body slumped lifelessly. I carried the doughy body of the knight and submerged into the water, as if seeping through. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The remaining distance to the target is 30 meters. The enemy's speed is slowing down. Everyone stop. At Yannick's command, the knights came to a halt in their tracks. That guy, who was moving at an incredible speed until now, suddenly slowed down. If it weren't for the assault pack, he would have been difficult to chase. As a result, the other teams were far behind. In this situation, which is crucial for Yannick to secretly capture the monster, it is very advantageous. Seeing the slowdown in speed, it seems he's noticed our pursuit. Considering the intelligence of that creature, it might be planning to ambush the knights. Not being able to gauge the opponent's level, it seems a beast is just a beast. No matter how powerful the monster is, handling the firepower of the 20 present here is almost impossible. Yannick made a vow. He will teach that ferocious beast the truth that there is a sky above the sky. Before the battle, I need to check the personnel. Yannick stood in place and observed the weapons of each of his men. Someone is missing. One of the members who was originally at the back was not there. Perplexed, Yannick counted again, but there was no way someone missing could appear. There were 19 members present. In the place where there should have been a member, there was only a dense shadow. Shadow? Could it be? Realizing the meaning of that unnatural shadow, Yannick shouted. But it was already too late. The shadow shot up from the water, and a long, giant serpent emerged, wrapping around one of the knights. At the same time, the autoplasma gun attached to the shoulder of a knight next to the captured comrade activated and fired. Ugh! Oh no. Everyone, watch out for friendly fire. However, the serpent used the captured knight as a shield, and the plasma energy broke through the knight's sturdy armor, spraying blood into the air. With about half of the upper body gone, the comrade was carried by the serpent and disappeared into the murky sewer water. The knights pulled out their bolt guns and began firing into the water. The green energy pellets illuminated the dark sewer. "Cease fire! Cease fire!" Yannick shouted as if cursing, and the members stopped firing. Where the serpent disappeared, only the right arm of their fallen comrade remained, floating in the dark sewage. Chapter 72. Be afraid. Be afraid. The enemies unleashed a barrage of plasma volters, but being underwater, no one managed to hit accurately. Escaping unscathed from the saturation of plasma bullets, I retrieved the blood-sucking tentacle, pulling a knight along in the process. Cuck! The knight caught in the tentacle somehow resisted by drawing the blade claw with his left arm on the opposite side. That won't work. With the sharp claws on the back of my hand, even if they were reinforced, they would easily be cut into pieces. My blood-sucking tentacles responded to my will and penetrated into the broken gloves of the opponent. Arg! The tentacle with sharp teeth on the inner surface entered the armor, turning the opponent's body upside down. As the arm fell off, the knight writhed in pain. Maybe calming down with some water will help. Thanks to the assault pack, the knight received oxygen through the helmet connected to the pack even underwater. After pulling the knight, I removed the combat helmet. Inside, moderately long blonde hair flowed. What though a woman? I naturally thought it was a man, but it turned out to be a woman. Perhaps due to genetic modification, her appearance was quite outstanding. Darn it! The female knight distorted her expression due to extreme pain. In the game, many Megacorp players try to recruit female mercenaries. The knights provided as a special bonus by the Eden family are randomly chosen in terms of both name and appearance. There are instances of bulky, muscular African-American males appearing, as well as fair-skinned, blonde females like the knight in front of me. Therefore, among Megacorp players, there are quite a few who want to assemble mercenaries with beautiful knights. There were even guides in the community on how to recruit only cute girl knights. I preferred amorphs, though. Of course, being an ordinary man, I felt a liking when I saw a beautiful woman. But now, for some reason, looking at the beautiful woman's face didn't evoke any special emotions. Anyway, a female knight, watching her, I had an amusing thought. If she's a woman, there might be some use. I opened my mouth and gently bit her neck. Ugh, she groaned. Since I bit her gently, it shouldn't be painful. It might be because of some physiological aversion to amorphs. The neurotoxin in my saliva seemed to take effect as her expression quickly relaxed. Perhaps the pain from the amputated arm wasn't being felt either. Confirming that she was paralyzed, I placed the helmet back on her that I had removed earlier. To connect the assault pack. Ah, here it is. As I connected the tubes on her neck and shoulders, light returned to the helmet. With power restored, the reconnaissance chip inside the helmet should be functioning again. You'll be my bait. In my experience, female comrades make excellent bait. Most people react more sensitively to the death of a woman than a man. I wondered if there would be gentlemen in this space age rushing to rescue a damsel in distress. It's worth experimenting with. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk was the signal device, a decoy. Yannick double-checked the signal. The signal that had been 30 meters away before they arrived was rapidly moving farther. Is there another creature here? After a brief pause, he shook his head. No, it's unlikely that wild animals would follow his intentions so precisely. Assuming he has the ability to split is more plausible. Creatures that can split their bodies are rare but definitely exist. He uses the split ability to insert signal chips for disruption. He's a strategist, a quite skilled one at that. Yannick felt the need to broaden his estimate of him. Ability to breathe fire, shoot bone spikes, become invisible, split, and high intelligence. Quite impressive indeed. The commander would be pleased. Even with the current technology for creating Hulk mutants, it was impossible to incorporate so many different traits into a single body. While the genetically modified humans of the Eugen family might possess diverse characteristics, the creature's appearance didn't seem human in any way. When I saw him earlier, his appearance resembled that of a snake. He hadn't used the invisibility ability, probably because of the flowing water in this location. Captain Yannick, Catherine's vital signal is still valid. What? Upon hearing a member's shout, Yannick manipulated the terminal on his wrist. Soon, the vital signals of the members of Squad 4 and the vanished comrade Catherine, as well as the visual feed from her camera, appeared inside the visor. She's still alive. Catherine's signal was faint, but she was still alive. Judging by her view, she seemed to be leaning against a wall somewhere in the passage. Captain, Catherine hasn't died yet. If we don't rescue her quickly, it might be too late. Yannick fell silent at the member's words. A trap. The creature was using the signal device for disruption tactics. There seemed to be something fishy about it. He's highly intelligent. There's no way he'd leave a wounded person for no reason. Catherine might have resisted. With enhanced physical abilities from the assault pack, she could easily handle his body, even with a blade cutter. That was a valid point. When they entered the sewers, they didn't just rush in without any information about the monster. Based on various types of information, including the armaments of the comrades who fought with him at the hospital and the station, the current Eden Knights had an idea of the monster's defensive capabilities. Captain, we came here secretly to capture him. If we encounter the defense forces later, it will complicate matters. We don't have time to hesitate. That statement also made sense. The enemy was more intelligent than expected, and if the defense forces got involved, the situation would become much more complicated. As the team member said, they needed to deal with the creature as quickly as possible. In the process, they could also rescue their comrade. All right, I'll report to Jacob immediately. As he raised the communication device, something flew from behind the passage. The slender object pierced directly into the communication device Yannick was holding. Bone spike. As his gaze turned toward the back of the passage, the autoplasma gun on his shoulder activated. Green energy bullets illuminated the passage as they flew. For a brief moment, a serpent-like creature could be seen disappearing beneath the water's surface. The black shadow that briefly appeared on the water vanished beyond the passage. Captain, I'm okay. The cunning creature had taken advantage of the moment when Yannick was distracted by holding the communication device. Darn! Yannick carefully examined the debris of the broken communication device in his hand. As long as the chip isn't damaged. Fortunately, the chip itself was intact, untouched by the damage to the communication device. Phew, luckily it's not completely broken. He placed the communication chip back into the wrist terminal. Soon, the function to send files and messages was activated. Yannick sent a brief warning message to Jacob, along with the recorded data from his camera. With this, there's evidence left, but during the secret operation, he deliberately used a communication device connected to an independent network to avoid going through the defense fleet's communication network. Unless they were foolish, there would undoubtedly be suspicions raised if the data was transmitted through the terminal. He had to trust that Denver, their superior, would somehow cover it up. He's far more cunning than we anticipated, so there's nothing we can do. Let's move. Having safely transmitted information to Jacob, Yannick led his subordinates and continued on their way. The warriors of steel rushed through the passage, a force to be reckoned with. Even the creatures halfway filling the passage, numbering over 18 knights, couldn't stop the onslaught. Perhaps due to their anger or enhanced bodies from assault packs and reinforced suits, the knights caused the hard floor of the sewer passage to ripple with each step. Catherine is 15 meters away. Everyone, slow down and be cautious of the surroundings. As Catherine's position got closer, the knights slowed down. The knights, with heightened vigilance, carefully scanned their surroundings. The autoplasma guns also moved diligently to be ready to fire at the owner's designated target at any moment. He doesn't seem to be around here. Apart from the flowing water, no other movements were detected. When Yannick made a gesture, 2 members approached Catherine. She was laying her upper body on the surface of the water, seemingly bowed down. Although she looked as if she were dead, all the knights continued to check vital signals, making it clear she was still alive. Hey, Catherine, are you okay? One member approached her, grabbed her left shoulder, and shook her. In response, she made a murmuring sound. What did you say? Her voice came from inside the helmet. She seemed to want to scream, but something seemed to be suppressing her. Danger? Is it dangerous? As he spoke, two red tentacles emerged from behind Catherine, or in other words, from behind the knights. Ha! Ugh! The tentacles forcefully swept the necks of the two knights in the rear. No matter how protected they were by reinforced suits, the neck is a vulnerable area for humans. The tentacles, as thick as the thighs of an average adult male, hitting the neck directly couldn't leave them unscathed. The necks of the two knights departed from their original positions and twisted in a strange direction. "It's the enemy!" With Yannick's shout, the attention of the knights turned momentarily to the rear. A green energy shot from the autoplasma gun hit one of the tentacles. The tentacle hit by the plasma shot detached halfway. In the meantime, the other one remained hidden in the water. "Eliminate that creature?" The knights aimed their bolters in the direction of the tentacle, but the creature's attack was not over yet. While the knights were focused on the rear, the main body of the tentacle hid under Catherine and emerged. The real target of it was the two knights who had come close to inspect Catherine's condition. "Huh!" A foolishly murmuring knight. In front of him, he turned his head, revealing small, white blades and darkness. A deep darkness engulfed his entire head. "Damn it, ugh!" In an instant, it bit off the head of the nearby comrade. The knight, witnessing this, hastily tried to swing the blade claw. Even if something hadn't entwined his leg, he would have successfully beheaded the creature. Although the knight's posture was disrupted, he was a veteran among veterans. Moreover, enhanced by the assault pack, he could adjust the direction of the claw even while his stance was crumbling. As a result, his blade claw successfully cut into the creature's shoulder. Blood spurted from the creature's wound, splashing onto his helmet. The creature, in pain from the attack, opened its mouth, releasing the comrade's head it had been biting. "Grr. Success, ugh." That was fine, but what happened next was something the knight couldn't predict. The helmet, stained with blood, began to rapidly melt. "What, ugh?" "He's around, don't take off your helmet." In order not to melt his head along with it, the knight quickly removed his helmet. A little late, but Yannick saw that the creature's main body was hiding in front, not behind. However, his warning came too late. The tail of it, which had wrapped around the knight's leg, emerged from the water and pierced through the back of his head. Ugh! The knight with a hole in his head collapsed. "Damn it, the main body is behind us. Open fire!" Yannick and the knights quickly fired their bolters. Several shots hit the creature's head, but it didn't care and leaped across the passage. One person stayed to protect the wounded. The rest follow me. 13 knights chased the creature at a rapid pace. The creature's movements were still fast, but being hit in the head seemed quite lethal, as it couldn't widen the distance from the knights. Yannick, who was closing in on the creature, alternated between his bolt and plasma gun. "I misjudged. I should have waited and called for reinforcements. In a short time, less than a few minutes, 4 knights were killed. Furthermore, one was injured. While they managed to injure the creature, the losses on their side seemed much greater. He's moving through the narrow passage. According to the map, the passage end is blocked. Good. The somewhat good news was that the creature seemed confused. It frantically moved around, seeming unfamiliar with the injury to the point of pushing itself into a dead end. All right, this is our chance. Yannick resolved to subdue the creature while it was still disoriented. He and the knights entered the narrow passage. Asterisk, 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 ah, damn, it hurts a lot. I sustained wounds on my body. Thanks to the regenerative effects, the outer layer of my head had almost completely healed, but the shoulder area was still recovering. Moreover, the blood-sucking tentacle on my left arm was torn about half, requiring considerable time to heal. It's indeed tough without the symbol of hunt. While my exterior was tough, it was challenging to block blade cutters or plasma attacks. Maybe the perfect organism properties alone aren't enough. The synergy of the organic enhancement type and the complete organic effects made my skin more robust than ever, but there were still many shortcomings. I intentionally tried to lure them into complacency. Plasma attacks were thrown with confidence in the resilience of my head, but getting hit by the blade claw was unexpected. It hurt more than I thought, to the point where I unintentionally made a sound. There are still many enemies to fight, so I need to be more careful. Anyway, it's almost over now. I'm currently at a dead end in a narrow corridor just wide enough for me to barely fit. Even without focusing on auxiliary systems, I could hear the sounds of enemies chasing me into the corridor. They're furious. Seeing the turbulence in the water, it seems the enemies are quite enraged. Losing composure during battle is most dangerous. I adjusted my posture, half submerged in the water. This narrow passage was indeed a bottleneck. The enemies, taller than 2 meters, could only form 2 columns at best, or 1 column if not. They would move within the passage like that. In other words, there was no cover even if a powerful area attack were to be launched. Psychic enhancement type and perfect organism that enhances the type effect. How strong will it be? Let's experiment. When I first obtained the psychic enhancement type, I instinctively knew. Thanks to the type, the restriction on the psychic breath had increased, allowing me to fire it up to a maximum of 2 times. Normally, 1 time would make me lose consciousness, not now. The current situation doesn't allow for it. Seeing the increasing flow of the water, the remaining distance between them and me is now minimal. The enemies have come far enough. In case they turn around to flee, I need to time it as accurately as possible. Even though I could use it twice, I couldn't waste my valuable psychic breath ability in vain. The distance with the creature is 10 meters. I heard the enemy's voice. The outline of the knight leading the way could be seen in the darkness. I turned my body toward the outside of the passage and activated the monster's tentacles. A bunch of violet tentacles emerged from the back of my head, trembling and moving. Long and thick violet tentacles aimed toward the front of my head, demonstrating the power of a dragon. He seems to be wait, something's not right. What's this? Everyone activate your shields. The one who appeared to be the commanding officer among the knights hastily shouted. Not a bad judgment, but can shields really block this? After I became a morph, I never experienced such an overwhelming psychic power concentrated in front of me. A massive psychic power, something only the great dragons of the universe could handle, focused in front of me. The dirty filth inside the narrow passage couldn't withstand the energy, boiling. It wasn't the same as before, where all my life force and mental power were sucked out. Now it wasn't to that extent. Instead, it was scorching hot. And then, like a violet sun that only great dragons could wield, it fired. The water evaporated, and the metallic walls that composed the sewage turned into dust. The violet light emitted from the shields the knights raised couldn't compete with the pure energy in the corridor. When the violet heat touched, the shields disappeared as if they had never existed. The sturdy armor of the knights, the expensive assault packs, the various genes in their bodies, everything was engulfed by the violet heat. After the psychic breath ended, there was nothing left in front of me. Chapter 73. Operation Camp set up in the commercial district. A facility temporarily established for the joint operation between the Eden Knights and the city defense forces. There, Denver was observing the operation command of the crisis management team. Although Denver was an outsider, the atmosphere was not bad. He was the head of the prime capital Eden, but at the same time, he was also a hero who had participated in various wars. Understanding the nature of a soldier well, he tried to avoid actions that would annoy the defense forces as much as possible. The defense forces also appreciated his consideration and treated him warmly. The friendly atmosphere of the operation camp was disrupted by a new visitor brought by Layla. Haha, long time no see, Mr. Denver. Why Zhao? The newcomer to the camp was a blue-haired, yellow-skinned man. His name was Wai Zhao. He was the head of the Zhao family, which competed with the Eden family for dominance over Mars. Denver looked at him, who casually took out a cigar indoors with a somewhat complicated expression. What brings you here? Denver, who was friendly to everyone, couldn't do the same for the people of the Zhao family. The two families had been fighting for hundreds of years to become the sole ruler of Mars. It was not the first time they had experienced bloodshed in the conflict between the families. Even now, in the main city of Mars, invisible struggles between the two families were in full swing, so it was natural that their relationship was not good. Y, who revealed hostility, responded to Denver with a relaxed smile. "No, I heard there was something interesting going on. I'm one of the journalists, so if there's a new incident, I should cover it, right?" Denver looked at Layla's face, who came with Y. Her expression was also icy. It was clear that he had requested it forcibly, even though she did not want it. Just at a time like this, the Zhao family owns the largest newspaper, Daily Mars, within Mega Corp. News of an accident in the Special Trade Center would have been delivered long before the board meeting. Everything is under control, Y. There doesn't seem to be anything here that would attract your attention, right? Haha, don't be so disappointed. I'm here because of the vote, too. I can't miss the opportunity to judge whether the target of the vote is legitimate or not. Y Zhao supports the re-election of Akira Yujin. As far as Denver knows, the Zhao family is divided into those who support Akira Yujin and those who do not. In other words, from Y's perspective, it is most important to reveal how incompetent Akira's competitor, Samdam Kemblin, is. That way, the public opinion within the family can be unified. I hope Vicus does well. If something goes wrong with the most influential leader of the Yellow Press in Mega Corp here, the plans of Samdam and Denver will be completely ruined, and they will have to wait for the next council meeting. In Layla's case, she may have to take responsibility and step down from her position as general administrator. Anyway, this is my problem, so don't worry about it, Mr. Denver. HM? Hey, what's that camera over there? Y, who silenced Denver, questioned the crisis management team leader with a cigar in his mouth. It's the personal camera of the platoon leaders of each Defense Forces detachment participating in the operation. It allows us to easily check the progress of the operation here. While the crisis management team leader was responding, the entire camp shook violently. An earthquake? Everyone be careful. The earthquake, which shook everything inside, including computers, equipment, and people, quickly subsided. However, those who were in place all had bewildered expressions. An earthquake in an artificial structure floating in space. The first to regain composure was Layla, the ruler of the city. Contact the dome manager immediately and confirm if it's due to a meteor collision. Understood. The secretary hurriedly ran out of the camp. Y, who was embarrassed by the wind that caused him to fall alone, got up with a stiff face. I heard T&C is highly regarded for colonial development. Is it always like this? No, it's not. This is the first time. It has to be trustworthy. Layla, Y, calm down. This vibration seems to have come from the ground. Crisis management team leader, can the units below confirm? At Denver's request, the crisis management team leader gestured to a communication soldier. The soldier quickly sent a message underground. This is the operations headquarters. Is everything okay down there? Defense Force Team 1. ZZZZZ, no injuries. ZZZZZ, confirmed. No issues with the Vice Commander and the Knights. ZZZZZ as well. ZZZZZ, Defense. ZZZZZ, Team 2. Sewer collapsed. ZZZZZ, some casualties. ZZZZZ, reported. Currently undergoing treatment for injuries. Defense Force Team 3. Collapse phenomena around the camp and ZZZZZ, ground collapse occurred. ZZZZZ, personnel in the underground area. ZZZZZ, in a state of lost contact. Communication is unstable. Send additional support to Team 2 and tell Team 3 to try contacting again. Yes, this is the operations headquarters. While the communication soldier was conveying the crisis management team leader's instructions, Denver, although he didn't show it outwardly, was quite startled internally. There's no one in the underground, except for those who went down with Team 3. Currently, Denver's Knights are participating in the Defense Force's operation in the form of reinforcements. The support structure was divided into 3 squads to support the operations of each Defense Force team. All 3 squads set up a joint camp with the Defense Forces on the surface, and among them, Vicus and Jacob of Squads 1 and 2 were commanding members on the surface. Only Tennessee, burning with revenge, went directly underground. He even volunteered to be the bait. Denver left the camp for a moment, pretending to have something to do. Confirming that no one cared about him in the vicinity, he sent a communication to Vicus. ZZZZZ, Your Highness, is there a problem? Check Tennessee, something's wrong. Currently, the Camus ZZZZZZ negation status is unstable. ZZZZZ, I will personally go and check on him. Until then, Denver wasn't particularly worried. The collapse of the sewer due to an earthquake was an unexpected event, but everything was believed to be under control. Or so he believed. Asterisk, 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 a city's arteries are forged with advanced refining technology, a metal conduit impervious to deformation, even when various pollutants flow through it. However, this impressive sewer is currently severed. Stronger than I thought, huh? Psychic breath ruthlessly destroyed everything blocking its path. The interior of the conduit was naturally obliterated, piercing through walls filled with metal and concrete. I expected it to strengthen due to the type effect, but this is beyond my expectations. Not just the conduit, but it seems like the surrounding ground has collapsed. Since the underground is forcibly emptied by the psychic breath, the ground above, unable to withstand the pressure, collapsed. As the ground sinks underground, a chain reaction occurs, causing buildings above to collapse as well, greatly expanding the scope of destruction. Probably about 1/5 of the commercial district where I am has turned into ruins. Are the kids okay? I telepathically contacted number 26. ZZZZZZZZZ, are you okay over there? Big baby, there was just a thud, thud, thud. Are you hurt? ZZZZZZZZZ, I'm fine. How about you? The little one warned me with thud, thud, thud in advance, so I avoided it. Thank goodness. Even though it's a mutant, it's a genuine blue Galagan. Galagans are sensitive to the flow of psychic power. It probably felt the flow of psychic power and knew to move to a safe place. ZZZZZZZ. For now, stay hidden. Okay, confirming the safety of the kids, I got up. The place where I was has changed from a narrow conduit to a wide communal area. Thanks to the collapsed sewer, light seeped in bit by bit from above. The situation is getting a bit complicated. If the enemy realizes that I'm a monster capable of collapsing the entire city, they might come out recklessly. The possibility is low, but they might resort to fleet bombardment. If deploying forces to the sewer doesn't work, there's no other option. Honestly, it's like trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer, but you never know. Humans aren't that rational. Let's secure the remaining genes first. It's pointless to worry about things that haven't happened yet. It's much more beneficial to deal with immediate tasks. Among the knights chasing me, there are only 2 left and are not far away. I exited the transformed conduit. Since the sewer has collapsed, that area must be chaotic now. It won't be too difficult to ambush them, but the problem is the rear. While thinking, I felt the flow of waves coming from the opposite conduit. The knights I was looking for were coming this way. Let's deal with them first. It's difficult to hide here because there's not much water. Due to the evaporation caused by the violet heat lines and the holes in the walls, the water level around here has dropped. No, there's no need to hide. Checking with the auxiliary organ, I found one person supporting another. It seemed like one knight couldn't move due to paralysis, and the other was supporting her. That means the enemy's combat strength is less than 0.5. There's no need to hide. I moved along the wall to avoid the flow of waves from reaching them. From the other side of the conduit, I heard the knight's voice. Yannick, team leader, Vicus vice commander, damn it, communication is completely dead. Ugh, ugh. Oh no, Catherine, are you okay? Ugh, ugh. A knight who didn't notice me because he was focused on the female knight. When the female knight, who saw me first, reacted, he raised his head. I leaped from the ceiling towards him. I flattened the knight, and the 3 of us tumbled to the sewer floor. Ike! The knight quickly pulled out a blade claw to fight. However, the distance between us was too close for him to swing his arms. I grabbed both of his arms with my reinforced claws and bit through his helmet with my mouth. Ugh! Ugh! My jaw, strengthened by powerful muscles, crushed his helmet. The visor part shattered, and the knight's face became exposed. The reinforced glass shattered, spilling inward. Ah, ah! The knight screamed as the helmet crushed his entire head and broken glass shards stabbed into his eyes. His legs, which were swinging wildly while being held by me, calmed down after a moment. Confirming the knight's breath had ceased, I released my grip and pulled away from the helmet. The helmet was completely crumpled, reduced to 1/3 of its original size. Ugh, ugh, ugh. The female knight, who had witnessed her comrade dying beside her, let out a whimper. She tried to throw the body she was holding to the ground, but at that moment, an unfamiliar weapon appeared from another knight. A plasma launcher. The knight was carrying a plasma launcher on his back. I took the launcher from his back and held it in my hand. You came well prepared, huh? I don't know about other things, but a launcher is dangerous. Even if you wear the symbol of a hunter, if you get hit by more than 2 shots in a row, it can be dangerous because of its powerful firepower. If it's a defense force, having a launcher is appropriate. But why would the Knight's Order have it? If it's a defense force belonging to the defense fleet, they naturally possess plasma launchers. As far as I remember, it was one of the ceremonial weapons issued on a squad level. On the other hand, the Eden Knights don't use plasma launchers. Their main weapon is the plasma bolter. Compared to the launcher, it may lack firepower, but it is much more versatile. However, that's in the game. Here it could be different. Since she is wearing reinforced armor, she might be able to personally wield the launcher. I should use this. I grabbed the launcher and looked back at the female knight. From what they were saying earlier, it seems like there's a problem with the communication function. Huge psychic power can cause radio interference. Of course, it's not permanent. It should recover in about 10 minutes. I need to handle as much as I can before that. With the collapse of the ground in the commercial district, there must be many ruins of buildings. I should consider using one of them as a temporary hideout. Then, what should I do with this female knight? If the communication function is a mess, it's vague whether I can use her as bait. I'll just give her to the kids. I don't know how much longer they'll have to starve. Giving them a delicious meal now, considering that they filled their stomachs with corpse maggots, would be better. Come to think of it, I've practically eaten all the knights. Strengthening myself with the genetic essence is the top priority, but it's also necessary to grow them. Since the knights were all rich in nutrients, if the kids eat and become stronger than before, it's a benefit for me. They are excellent combatants with outstanding potential. Leaving the female knight behind, I started devouring the comrades. I stripped off the thick armor and tore out the sturdy muscles inside. Putting the flesh in my mouth and chewing, I felt the chewy texture created by delicate muscle fibers. This person's meat tastes like pork, to be precise. It tastes like pork neck. Usually when you eat neck meat, the taste is rich but somewhat dull, but the knight's meat had a better texture, surpassing pork neck. There are no pigs in space survival, it's strange. In the game setting, the Earth became a wasteland due to nuclear warfare between the 7 major corporations and various governments. As a result, pigs became extinct, and chickens, endangered species, can only be tasted by those above the prime capital class. It's a pitiful dystopian world where chicken and pork belly are gone. I quickly devoured the knight's meat while having such thoughts. Sigh. I've already eaten it all. The last thing left was the knight's wrist. It tasted familiar, so it felt good, but it was regrettable. It can't be helped. It's not like I can choose not to eat. I swallowed the wrist in one gulp as I thought that. The moment the wrist passed through the throat, predation effect activated, successfully obtained apparent death genetic essence. Extracted the apparent death from the biological characteristics of the hound hyena. Do you want to apply the apparent death? PR/N. Apparent death is a behavior in which animals take on the appearance of being dead. It is a form of animal deception considered to be an anti-predator strategy, but it can also be used as a form of aggressive mimicry. Oh, is it because I haven't had a tasty meal in a while? The translucent text box that appeared for guidance felt surprisingly welcoming, more so than usual. Chapter 74. It's a bit awkward to say this, but I wasn't popular in the game. To be precise, I was famous, but not in a positive way. Players in space survival called me Morph Enthusiast. Interestingly, even in foreign communities, this nickname became a kind of unique noun used to refer to me. Note: is a Korean slang term that refers to a person who enjoys and spends a significant amount of time playing the video game MapleStory, a popular multiplayer online role-playing game. The term combines MapleStory's Korean name and a suffix indicating a person who is a fan or enthusiast of something. In this context, would roughly translate to morph enthusiast. Of course, I had an explanation for it. If the character design is originally like this, there's no need to criticize me. The Amorph race itself specialized in ambush and hunting. So, there would be no user who plays as conventionally as the game company prescribed, as much as I do. Anyway, the reason why I brought up the past is due to the trait that I applied to my body. Apparent death. Surviving as an Amorph until it grows enough is not easy. Even if it evolves safely, it cannot entrust its back to comrades or clans like other races, always having to fight alone. What characteristics does an Amorph need the most? Surviving, devouring, evolving. Among these, ironically, the most important thing for Amorph is the first one. Surviving. Not dying and persistently surviving, just like a cockroach, is the essence of an Amorph play. Only by surviving can the rest, devouring, evolution, etc., be possible. However, unless other players are fools, they won't leave a potential threat as it is. Hence, there are players who specialize in hunting Amorph, and most users will try to kill Amorph if they discover it. So, how can one survive safely? After all, they wanted me dead. At this point, I changed my approach. I would do what they wanted, but inversely. Hence, I started to often disguise my death to escape enemy surveillance. The apparent death trait, as the name suggests, temporarily puts the player in a half-dead state. In space survival, when a player dies, the corpse remains in place until resurrected. So even if my corpse remains, enemies will find it hard to notice anything strange. As the system judges it as equivalent to death, it appears as if I died without a hitch from the NPC's point of view. For example, mercenaries scouting for Megacorp can't distinguish whether I faked my death with the trait or not. They simply report finding my corpse to their client. In fact, it's not a mistake or error on the NPC's part. It's designed that way in the system. When the apparent death trait activates, the caster's health or status is all falsely displayed. Even players with the ability to read others' information can't distinguish whether I actually died or not. The only way to see through the apparent death, excluding the caster, is to use equipment, techniques, or characteristics that nullify its effects. When enemies who don't have a means to see through it, their reactions when they see my corpse usually fall into two categories. Most just leave the spot, satisfied with having killed me, or they quickly move away, assuming I might pull off some trickery. Those who remain cautious and move away are not necessarily timid or cowardly. They have their reasons for behaving that way. Before engaging in a fight, I always prepare various things on the battlefield, setting up nests in unexpected places and ambushing from there, etc. There's a trait related to nests that changes the respawn location after you die, to a nest. I've turned the tide of the battle using these methods several times. Therefore, players who have experienced many defeats against me become more cautious when fighting with me. Of course, there were brave users attempting to provoke me by defiling my corpse. There were many users who were driven by revenge, who were fueled by anger, lost their sanity, and tried to torment me. In such cases, there's only one thing I can do: treat insanity with insanity. Anyway, I had many enemies, including players ranked lower or higher than me. For someone like me, always living in danger, the apparent death characteristic was one of the most useful. I was lucky to have acquired such a good trait. Thankful for the taste of pork that the night had, I picked up my gear and moved. I headed to the place where I first lured knights into a fight. Since there were 4 knight corpses left, I needed to take care of them. I'll give the female knight to the kids and eat the rest. It would be nice to create a new decoy with the hidden signal chip, but with the current sewer conditions, it seemed challenging. A significant portion of the surrounding walls had collapsed, so the signal chip would likely be damaged. Anyway, due to the effect of psychic breath, the signal won't be properly transmitted. Upon arriving at the location, I cleared the collapsed debris and retrieved the corpses. Thanks to the protection of the superior reinforced armor, the condition of the corpses was good. I left the body of the female knight nearby and carried the corpses, chewing them. It would be nice to eat leisurely, but there's no time. I have to hurry since I don't know when other enemies will come here. Did they use the same genes? All of them taste like pork. Even though I like pork, having the same taste again and again makes it a bit boring. There's just one left. Should I just give it to the kids? Perhaps it's better for me to eat the female knight and give this corpse to the kids. While pondering over the corpses, the auxiliary organ sent a signal to me. Someone is approaching from this direction. I took the female knight and the remaining corpses and submerged them into the water. By pressing my body against the floor, I could barely conceal myself except for the back part. Fortunately, there's a lot of debris around here. Concealing myself amidst the collapsed ruins, I heard voices from afar. Honestly, do we need to go rescue the knights? Knights aren't omnipotent, are they? They get hungry if they don't eat, and they get squashed if the building collapses. It's the same for it. The newly arrived individuals numbered 6 in total. They were all wearing gas masks and intermediate reinforced armor, carrying Gauss rifles. They are the defense force. This space city is managed by T&C, and those responsible for city security and defense are undoubtedly military personnel from the defense fleet, not knights. Indeed, the 2 divisions are conducting a joint operation. I had suspected this since the time they hired dozens of mercenaries, but now it was confirmed. Those soldiers came here to find the knights who were around here. They probably came to check if everything was okay since the sewer had collapsed. They passed by without noticing my presence. It's a joint operation between the 2 families. The 7 major families of Megacorp are set to have a bad relationship with each other. This is because they compete for the pinnacle of power, the position of the CEO. The right to nominate a CEO candidate lies with Noble Capital only, but Prime Capital also competes with them. Prime Capital dreams of promotion to Noble Capital because they only have the right to vote and cannot nominate a CEO candidate. To achieve this, one must pull down one of the 5 families above and climb up to take their position. Therefore, they naturally have no choice but to fight each other. It seems like they're cooperating for some reason before the board meeting. Eden is Prime Capital, and T&C is Noble Capital. Perhaps Eden made some kind of contract with T&C in exchange for their vote. If there were significant security issues in the special trading center of T&C, the venue for the board meeting, it would be disadvantageous for those who made the secret agreement. They might be deliberately conducting a joint operation to prevent this. Can I use this situation to my advantage? In fact, the situation I'm in is not very favorable. Although I have wiped out a unit of knights and devoured dozens of mercenaries so far, the overall situation is still unfavorable for me. My presence has already been discovered on the other side, and they have weapons that can kill me instantly. Due to the characteristics of the infrastructure, they probably can't attack me recklessly. But if the T&C family judges that leaving my presence alone is more detrimental than destroying the sewer, they will mobilize the defense fleet. Artillery fire can't be stopped as a symbol of hunting. To fight against warships, you need special characteristics. Unfortunately, I can't obtain that here. Let's organize the situation and conditions once. When I organize the information I obtained in the sewer, it goes as follows. Currently, the enemies threatening me are T&C and Eden, 2 families. The reason they consider me a threat is that, prior to the big event, I've been disrupting security. They are conducting joint operations in the sewer to eliminate me, the unsettling factor, as quickly as possible. I need to break that cooperation. In the first place, due to the Megacorp structure, fights are inevitable. Even a slight conflict could shake the friendship between the Eden family and the T&C family. Of course, since the 2 are in a secret agreement, it's unlikely that the conflict over me will deepen significantly. I don't wish for it to go that far either. Causing confusion for them should be enough. So how can I shake their relationship? Since communication is unstable, Information transmission may not be proper. Fortunately, I have a tool that can sow discord between the defense force and the knights. There are corpses of knights and a launcher. I activated a small follow-up launcher. A light appeared on the small terminal hanging on the long, slender barrel over 1M. The launcher is fine. Upon checking the knight's corpse, except for the broken neck, everything else seemed intact. Without inspecting closely, it was difficult to sense that something was wrong. Good. Let's leave the bait here. Before entering the operation, I broke all of the female knight's arms and legs. Ugh! A faint whimper came from the helmet, but I didn't pay much attention. The reason I didn't kill her, even though I could, is one. If I kill her, it might not count for the kid's growth conditions. Like me, who follows the rules of the game, number 26 and at high are creatures of this world. So they are likely not identical to me, but still, you never know. After hiding the female knight underwater, I took the knight's corpse and launcher and followed the defense force. On the way, I had already contacted number 26 in advance. It was about what to do after my death. Contrary to my expectations, number 26 reacted very violently to the fact that I was dying. It said he would rather die than leave me to die alone. Surprisingly sensitive to death. Perhaps it's because it has grown mentally. I didn't expect number 26 to dislike it so much. Instead, I persuaded it by promising to bring tasty food. It seemed more interested in the fact that I would definitely come back than the food. If the big baby doesn't come back, I'll be really mad. After that statement, number 26 didn't send any more signals. Of course. What's the use of all this if I'm going to die? Having explained the plan to number 26 like that, I increased my speed and closed the distance with the soldiers. They haven't gone far. Unlike the knights in superior reinforced armor, their movement speed wasn't very fast. They still weren't aware that something was chasing them from behind. Is this distance enough? I calculated the distance with them and set up the knight's corpse appropriately. Thanks to the armored form of reinforced armor, it wasn't difficult to make it look like I was standing. In a half-submerged state behind the knight, I activated the launcher. Charging 10-20, the sewer turned into a semi-ruin, murky water up to the waist shadows. And somewhere inside that darkness, the mysterious monster lurking. It's a perfect environment to lose your mind. I don't intend to end it just by making them resent each other. What's important is action and results. By provoking a chaotic situation, there should be something I can gain. If it's a chaotic situation, anything can happen. Charging 40-70, for example, what if I were to appear in a situation where they are firing launchers at each other? What if, in the midst of their fight, I appear and die by getting hit by a launcher? Tracking me will end with that. As the cause of the joint sewer operation, I would be eliminated, leaving an unbridgeable gap between the knights and the defense force. Moreover, if I give the enemies the certainty that I am dead, my range of action will widen even further. Old memories are coming back. It was the same when I fought against 4 clans on the jungle planet in the past. The enemy's power was overwhelmingly strong, and I was just a weak individual compared to them. The factor that allowed me to win even in unfavorable battles was that I used everything at my disposal. Among those factors was even the idea of my own death. Charging 100% when the terminal's number reached 100, an advanced weapon capable of destroying even a battleship spewed fire towards the soldiers. Asterisk, 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 I'm wearing a gas mask and can still smell it. The hell is going on? Cough, and the atmosphere doesn't feel right either. I've been feeling strangely chilly since earlier. Hey, dude, do you have to talk like that in such a crappy situation? If we survive this mission, I'm going to propose to my fiancée when it's over. That crazy bastard is talking nonsense again. The guy who goes out every morning and plays with himself on VR TV is talking about engagement, damn it. It's true, not here in the Special Trade Center, but on another planet. While soldiers were chatting with each other, a green light suddenly flew from behind. The pale green beam, like a laser, turned not only the upper bodies of the soldiers, but also the walls of the passage into dust. Enemy attack! Take cover, everyone! Take cover! When the commanding officer shouted, other soldiers quickly hid behind the debris of the collapsed sewer. "Damn, what was that just now?" "Sergeant, it's a plasma launcher." "What? Friendly fire?" "The possibility is slim. The launcher is managed by a small computer." "That means they are being targeted and shot at by the enemy." The sergeant slightly pulled his head back from behind cover to confirm the enemy's appearance. In the darkness, the silver armor was certainly noticeable. Faced with the worst situation they didn't expect, he cursed. "Have those damn knights gone crazy? Why are they shooting at us? They might have mistaken us for monsters or—" "Wait and see." Interrupting his subordinate's words, the sergeant shouted loudly from behind cover. "Hey, we belong to the defense force. We're allies." His voice echoed in the sewer. As if in response to his words, the green light flashed again from the darkness on the other side. "Son of a B*TCH, the sergeant quickly threw himself into the sewage. The plasma beam barely missed his back. "Sergeant, you sons of B*Teaches." He didn't die, but unfortunately, his subordinate who was in cover with him couldn't escape that fate. The subordinate's body disintegrated along with the cover by the intense energy. "We don't have enough firepower to fight the knights. I'll cover you, so everyone retreat." "Understood." While the squad leader fired a Gauss rifle at the enemy, other soldiers emerged from cover and leaped into the darkness. "It doesn't matter which team, just go and inform them." "This knight is insane. Og!" A scream echoed from behind. It wasn't hard for the soldiers to imagine what had happened to their leader. "Sergeant! Damn, the sergeant was wrong. Run, you bastards!" Among the remaining soldiers, the one with the highest rank led his comrades down the corridor. The sounds of splashing water in the silent ruins were filled with the soldiers panting. With the death of their leader, their senses had become extremely sensitive, so they could discern something alien mixed among the sounds of their footsteps. "Ah!" Following the scream, a loud splashing sound was heard. The soldier at the back of the team fell. The comrades quickly turned around, but he was instantly sucked into the water and disappeared. In his place, only a Gauss rifle floated aimlessly. "Damn! Run! Damn, damn, damn!" The fleeing soldiers were almost out of their minds. Darkness, ambush, sudden death of comrades, and strangely unfavorable physical condition. All these factors turned well-trained soldiers into a disoriented group. In their heads, there was only the thought of staying alive. Perhaps because of this, after the sergeant's scream, the plasma beams didn't come flying anymore, but they didn't sense anything odd. After running for a while, they finally met with other team members. "Who's there?" "Help me." "Huh, why are you here? Wait, aren't you all from Team 3? The escaping group encountered a mixed-gender reconnaissance unit from Team 1, wearing gas masks and intermediate reinforced suits with knights in silver armor scattered among the soldiers. "Eek! Have they gone crazy as a group? Why are they suddenly like this?" The escaping soldiers screamed in horror at the sight of the chaotic scene, while the defenders of Team 1 were perplexed by the disheveled state of the escapees. The crisis management manager appeared. "What's going on?" "These are members of Team 3 reconnaissance unit. They suddenly came here and, manager, please save us." Did you find it? Calm down and tell me." The crisis management manager calmly questioned them. The escaping soldiers, who had somewhat stabilized, shouted while pointing at the knights. "It's them. Those knights attacked us with plasma launchers." "What? 3 out of 6 have died, all because of the knights' attacks?" Hearing this, the manager glanced at Vicus, the vice commander of the knights. Vicus quickly managed his expression, but the manager didn't miss it. The emotion that briefly appeared on his face and then disappeared was closer to an embarrassment than surprise. It was as if his hidden secret had been exposed. Chapter 75. "What is happening? Please explain," the crisis management manager asked Vicus. The words themselves didn't carry anything special. It was just a normal inquiry about the situation. However, the tone was that of an officer interrogating a criminal. The atmosphere among the members of the mixed search team from Unit 1 quickly turned chilly. "Well, what do you mean?" Vicus evaded the question with a casual face, but his thoughts were far from simple. How is the situation unfolding? Could it be Yannick's doing? The soldiers present in the room, especially those led by Yannick in Team 4, were given a secret mission by Duke Denver: capture the monster. In the process, if they encounter the defense force, eliminate them. Damn, it's inconvenient not being able to contact them directly. Yannick being reported as a reserve unit under Jacob of Unit 2 adds another layer to the complexity. To issue commands to Yannick, it has to go through Jacob, Yannick's direct superior. The establishment of such an intricate command structure wasn't a result of the Knights being naive. In case of an accident, it was designed to cut off mid-level commanders to prevent them from causing harm to their masters. For instance, in a situation like the one Vicus was facing now. No, I still don't know exactly what the situation is. There was no need to rush things and reach a census prematurely, even if Yannick's attack wasn't confirmed. Vicus spoke while removing the cigar. What does that statement mean? What? Isn't it strange? They might have fled because they were scared of the monster and then falsely reported it. The manager grimaced at Vicus' words. Understandably so, as Vicus' statement was a blatant insult to the defense fleet soldiers. We can't let that statement slide. Our defense forces are not of such low standards to be ridiculed like that. As I said, our knights are the same. Trained to value comrades more than their own lives. Would we, who prioritize our comrades, attack the defense forces? The manager remained silent in response to Vicus' words, who was trying to pressure the manager. If the fleeing soldier hadn't intervened in their conversation, his intent would likely have succeeded. Ah, no, manager. The Knights attacked us with plasma launchers. Saying this, the soldier showed a neatly cut shoulder guard and a section of a Gauss rifle. There aren't many means capable of precisely destroying a reinforced combat suit like this, especially in the sewer system. The manager squinted at Vicus with suspicion. Huh, the monster carries launchers around? In the first place, the launcher receives shooting assistance from the embedded AI. The soldier's information is registered, so it's designed to minimize damage to allies when shooting in the presence of friendly forces. His words were true. The plasma launcher was one of the top-ranked weapons in Megacorp's arsenal in terms of destructive power. Therefore, to prevent significant damage in case of accidental discharge or capture by enemies, various restrictions were placed on it. One of them was the shooting assistance system regulated by AI. The launcher's AI can register soldiers' personal information. The registered data is stored in an encrypted state to prevent the launcher from shooting allies. To override this, a specific code known only by the commander must be entered to enforce a forced shooting command. A launcher which stores the information of the defense fleet soldiers cannot attack its allies. In other words, the launcher that attacked the soldiers was not a weapon possessed by the defense fleet, but was most probably brought by others. The only others in the underground were the Eden Knights. Of course, the vice commander of the Eden family must be aware, but I was just mentioning it. Vicus, whose response was anticipated, cleared his throat. Originally, the plasma launcher was an improvement on the artillery mounted on warships. Vicus, who was from the renowned Eden family famous for ship development, was not unaware of this fact. Yannick. What on earth have you done? The reason for providing the launcher to Unit 4 was to break through the monster's tough exterior, not to shoot at the defense forces. The difference in armament between quantum levels was stark enough that even a plasma bolter alone could harm damage. Should I clean up here? He wanted to call Jacob and confirm about the situation, but communication devices weren't functioning properly in the sewers. Even if he wanted to send a message from here, it would be problematic since the deputy leader would undoubtedly monitor their conversation. What should I do? A careful assessment was needed, but there was neither time nor the situation for it. Vicus pondered. His contemplation ended abruptly with a green beam flying out of the darkness. Enemy ambush. The soldier who tried to convey the information was incinerated into dust before finishing his words. Not only him, but also his nearby comrades were engulfed in a fiery energy mass. All the just-deceased individuals were defense fleet soldiers. As the fact that the enemy targeted only the soldiers became apparent, flames of rage flickered in the deputy leader's eyes. "Vice Commander Vicus? TCH, everyone, prepare for combat." As Vicus gave the command with a click of his tongue, the knights simultaneously drew their bolters. Now there was no turning back. Before the communication network was restored, they had no choice but to kill all the soldiers from the defense forces present in this location. Asterisk, 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 good. They're fighting fiercely. As the atmosphere seemed uncertain, I decided to provoke the situation further, and the enemies started fighting like madmen, as if they had been waiting for me to shoot the beam. While the knights were overwhelming in terms of armament, the soldiers outnumbered them. The knights massacred the soldiers with their bolters, and the soldiers fired tungsten rounds from cover. It's going tough with regular rounds. The advanced reinforced armor worn by the Eden Knights nullified weight for enhanced defense. To stand a chance, they needed to switch to armor-piercing rounds. The issue is that the knights also have countermeasures. Even-numbered squads switch to armor-piercing rounds. Odd-numbered squads provide cover. All members deploy shields. As soon as the Defense Forces commander shouted, the knights immediately responded. A faint violet wave emanated from the knights' right wrists, materializing into a rectangular-shaped shield. This true psychic shield, shaped like a violet suppression shield, was a genuine psychic shield provided as a standard option with the advanced reinforced armor. The psychic shield attached to the advanced reinforced armor isn't bad. Despite the humorous nickname Mega Corp users gave them, the psychic shields were potent protection against both physical and psychic attacks. They were on a different level than the fakes brought by the armored police in the previous fight in the apartment. As the soldiers realized they couldn't penetrate the psychic shields with armor-piercing rounds unless they had AP rounds themselves, the Defense Force commander shouted, "Ready, launchers, fire!" Oh no, scatter everyone! The firepower of the launcher could tear through the shields like paper. The Defense Force commander shouted, "Everyone deploy shields!" The knights scattered to avoid the incoming fire. Despite the superior defense of the advanced reinforced armor, it was no different from paper against the beams of the launcher. Before the knights could disperse, multiple launchers unleashed their beams. Most managed to evade, but some couldn't. Some knights lost half of their bodies, while others lost limbs. "Arg! Injured, fall back!" Several knights carrying injured comrades approached. "Should I step in now?" I had two goals by doing this: sow chaos among the enemies and fake my own death. I need to intervene at the right time. The enemies weren't fools. To deceive both those present and those above, I needed to show them getting hit by the enemy's attack and me dying. For that, it would be best if as many people as possible witnessed my death. While waiting for the right moment, a beam aimed at the knights flew towards me. This should be enough. Emerging from the darkness, I threw the corpse of a knight who had already died by my tentacles into the path of the beam. The corpse directly met the beam and oxidized instantly. Now, only I knew that the corpse was already dead, its neck broken by my tentacles. A knight carrying an injured comrade shouted, "Our ally got hit." He seemed to have only seen the sight of his oxidizing comrade, not noticing my presence. It seems like he didn't see me. If he didn't see me, I should let him know. I charged forward, using my head to knock him down. Even with sturdy armor, my powerful charge and the sharp horns protruding from my head were something they couldn't withstand. The two horns pierced through the knight's side. "Arg!" The knight emitted a brief scream filled with blood. With the knight impaled, I lifted my head, shaking it. The penetrating wounds in the knight's abdomen widened, and the horns were soaked in bright red blood. Another knight saw my appearance and shouted, "The creature has appeared." I threw the knight who had turned into a pinwheel due to my head shake into the distance, and then I swung my tail broadly, scattering spike hairs randomly. They embedded in the knight's reinforced armor, and some even reached the soldiers hiding in cover. "It's a monster! Don't panic. He's the target we were searching for. Concentrate all firepower on him." The initially bewildered soldiers quickly regained composure under the seasoned command of their leader. Though the armor-piercing rounds they fired showered over me, my body is currently dual reinforced, with both physical enhancement type and a fully organic structure. While the outer layer was gradually being pierced, there were no fatal injuries. The soldiers' targets switched to me, but not the knights. A knight who seemed like the commander shouted, "Those in the rear contain him, the rest clean up the defense forces." "Vice Commander Vicus, are you insane? He must not be handed over to them. We must capture him alive, no matter what." The Defense Forces commander, bewildered by the statement from the Knight commander, referred to as Vice Commander Vicus, shouted in disbelief. Hearing that, I paused for a moment, not to be handed over to them. It didn't imply any intention to assist me, especially judging by the knights ready to unleash their bolters on me. Let's think about this. Pretending to be dead was temporarily put on hold. While avoiding the pouring flames, I pondered, they must know I'm not an easy opponent. Why would they want to capture me alive? Die, ugh! I dodged a knight swinging a blade claw and seized him with combat arms. Then I threw him into the path of the incoming green beam. The knight made bewildered sounds and lost his right upper body to the beam. What can they gain with my physical body? Having dealt with one knight, I submerged underwater and laid low. The soldiers were shouting, trying to find where I had gone. The sound was faintly audible. At that moment, a submerged corpse came into view. The face of a man who had lost half of his upper body. It was the knight I had thrown into the plasma beam a while ago. Despite losing half his face, the broken helmet revealed a strikingly handsome appearance. A genetically modified human created only with superior genes, as expected. Genetically modified knight's genes? Oh, he's here! The knights discovered me, and their shouts echoed as they fired bolters into the water. I quickly moved away from that spot. Are they targeting my genes? Why did it only occur to me now? I had been assuming that the Eden family wouldn't have much interest in genetic modification, since I had been thinking within the framework of the Megacorp game settings. I believed that genetic modification and Hulk mutants were exclusively the domains of the Eugen family. But this is reality. Genes were handled solely by the Eugen family, and warships were exclusively Eden's responsibility, but this was reality here. There was no enforced system like in the game. I was evolving, breaking out of the game's constraints and understanding the reality. The plot twist was long overdue. The Eden Knights I devoured were all genetically modified humans. In the game, they were randomly generated NPC mercenaries, occasionally including non-human species like bolters or cultists, but the basic foundation was that they were all human. In the game, you could just redraw until you got the desired NPC, but here it's reality. The Knights were humans appropriately processed under the command of the Eden family's patriarch. They were humans modified for combat by incorporating genes from various creatures, commonly known as Hulk mutants. Eden's patriarch is extending beyond the domain of the Eugen family. In the eyes of the Eden family, I would be a genetically diverse entity with various traits, ripe for valuable research. Arg? Having snapped the neck of another knight, I reached a conclusion. The knights from the sewers and the defense forces had subtly different goals. While both aimed to eliminate the threat I posed to the city's security, there was a distinction in the specific methods to achieve this. The knights' objective was to capture me alive or at least leave my corpse intact. This way, they could conduct research on my physical form. Attacking the defense forces is probably because they don't want to hand over the corpse to them or the T and C behind them. If T and C knew that I, a valuable research subject for the Eden family, was being targeted, they would likely attempt negotiations. Although the two families were currently cooperating, it was an alliance with the underlying tension of potential future competition. If necessary, they would try to exploit any weaknesses in each other. I fought too fiercely from the beginning. Who would have thought there would be such intricacies behind the scenes? Actually, it worked out well. Originally, I planned to feign death in front of the enemies and secretly escape this place. However, now I had a choice. Should I escape under the control of the Eden family? Or should I go to the T and C family? If I were to annihilate any one of the two forces present, It would naturally create an opportunity for the other side to claim my corpse. If I go with the Eden family, I'll likely end up in their battleship's lab. In that case, I could seize a ship and escape the city. But the problem is, I don't know how tight the security measures inside their battleship are. A battleship is much more secure than a research vessel ship. Moreover, considering they plan to capture me secretly, there's a high chance they would take my corpse to the family patriarch's flagship, where the lab is situated. If it's the flagship, security will be even more stringent. Even though the fights that I had so far were challenging, dealing with a battleship would be much tougher. Then, what about T and C? Judging by the current situation, the defense forces here seem to know little about me. But after the battle ends and they calm down, they'll probably understand the situation roughly. Something essential in me is drawing the attention of the Eden family, even to the extent of committing murder and aggression against their own allies. Although the two families are currently working together, there's an underlying relationship of competition that may lead to conflict again. If necessary, they will try to exploit any areas where they can outsmart each other. How should I proceed? Time is running out. If I delay further, the defense forces might be wiped out before I make a decision. Bullets and plasma beams saturated the area around me as I finally made a decision. Chapter 76. The knights, the defense forces, and a monster were engaged in a fierce battle amid the ruins of a collapsed sewer system. "Squad leader, we can't hold on any longer. We have to retreat, Arg." A soldier fell. Though retaliating with plasma launchers, it was not enough. The launcher's recharge time made it unsuitable for effective use in this chaotic mid-range combat. Originally brought along as support weaponry against the monster, using the launcher was never intended in combat and especially against the knights. Why are the knights attacking us? The crisis management manager wasn't able to digest the overall situation. Everything was fine when they entered the sewers. Even during the initial reconnaissance, there hadn't been any major issues. The vice commander of the knights had been respectful towards them, and their members were also disciplined. "It's not a rebellion. The orders from above are clear." That's what Vice Commander Vicus had said earlier. "We must not let them take over. The target must be captured alive." There's something about the monster we don't know. Amidst the chaos of screams, gunfire, and plasma bolters tearing through the air, the team leader's thoughts persisted. The monster first caused trouble in the apartment complex, fought armed police, and then fled. The next place it went was the Port District. There, the monster killed some smugglers and fled again. The police officer who uncovered this at the Port District ended up hospitalized in the Commercial District, and then the knights visited that place. Good Lord, it was a destruction of evidence. The manager finally began to put the pieces together. It's a secret bioweapon made by the Eden family. For some reason, the Eden family chose this very trade center as a mock battleground for their experimental subject. It was probably designed for city assaults. Having wiped out the armed police force in the apartment complex, their experiment could be deemed as a success. The smugglers were probably secretly hired by the Eden family to bring the creature back. Perhaps they tried to sedate the monster and move it. But that operation failed, and this gruesome sight was discovered by the detective team investigating the smuggling case at the Port District. It was then that the Eden family dispatched the knights, under the guise assisting the city defense forces in capturing that creature. They couldn't afford to leave any witnesses. The manager felt a shiver down his spine. To think such a grand scheme and conspiracy was unfolding itself. It felt like something out of a novel. I need to report to the administrator, but the current situation won't allow me to do so. I have to hold on until communication is restored to have the chance to report this crucial discovery. Is there any way out? Most of his subordinates had fallen, leaving only a single soldier handling the launcher, relentlessly focused on firing while pinned to the ground. The odds were clearly against him. Unexpectedly, a hand extended towards him amidst his contemplation of survival strategies, a presence entirely unexpected. "Manager, the monster is only attacking the knights." "What?" "Look over there." The manager looked towards where his subordinate was pointing. It was true. A long-tailed, multi-legged monster was slaughtering the knights. Asterisk, 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 let's head to the administrative district. Admittedly, going to the Eden battleship was an attractive option. Currently, that is where the elite forces of the upper capital had gathered, ahead of the council meeting. Escaping before they aimed for his life wasn't a bad choice. Yet, there were 3 reasons for choosing the administrative district over the battleship. Firstly, I need to evolve. The cult part of the evolutionary condition for my maturity is unfulfilled. If evolution is impossible, no matter how abundant the genetic essence, it will have its limits. I can gather enough genetic essence in the administrative district. At this point, it was uncertain whether there were cult members on Eden's battleship. The fact that the knights weren't called in when I was apprehended suggests that the cult might not be there. Additionally, if I board the battleship, I can't take the kids with me, number 26 and at high, though they've been beneficial to me and have never caused me harm. If questioned about the merits of boarding the battleship by abandoning them, my answer would be of course negative. In Adhai's case, I made a deal. I promised to spare it and offer protection in exchange for the whereabouts of the Galagan's nest. If we part ways here, I will gain nothing. And lastly, I have insufficient information from T and C compared to Eden. Despite the joint operation between Eden and T and C in the sewer search, there's a considerable information gap between the 2 sides. Even the armaments that were brought into the sewers hinted at that. Eden brought weapons capable of subduing me. Plasma bolters and blade claws could pierce through my exterior, and assault packs were equipped for close combat anticipation. Moreover, they even brought a launcher. This weapon, except for my head, could heavily damage other parts of my body. However, the defense forces didn't. While they did bring a launcher, it was merely a support weapon at the squad level. Apart from that, their equipment wasn't significantly different from what the armed police wore in the apartment complex battle. The knights didn't share information about me yet. They probably did it for their own interests. Thanks to the Knights' information control, the upper echelons at the Special Trade Center have very little knowledge about me. The Special Trade Center undoubtedly sees me as a threat, but they don't know how dangerous I truly am. The less my enemies know, the more I can do. So hiding in this administrative district is advantageous for me. Now that I've made up my mind, only action remains. I charged towards the knights attacking the defense forces. A knight who had just slain a soldier with a blade was aiming a bolter at another. I lunged at him from behind, toppling him over. Ugh! The knight, completely caught off guard, lay defenseless. Restraining him firmly with my combat arm to prevent him from getting up, I pierced his head with my teeth. Help! The knight struggled futilely within my grasp, but I held him down firmly, rendering his resistance useless. I bit into his head again, tearing through his helmet, exposing his brain matter. Devouring what spilled from the knight's head, I leaped towards a fresh target. Damn it! Capture him! As I unexpectedly struck a knight from behind, Vikyus screamed in rage. I lashed my tail towards the surrounding knights. The sharp spines at the tip of my tail aimed at them, but their quick activation of psychic shields nullified the effects of my spines. A bolt from a knight's bolter was aimed at my head. Just before it fired, a piercing shot flew, penetrating the knight's head. Damn defense forces! Vikyus shouted as they fired Gauss rifles at the knights. 4 of you handle the defense forces, the rest deal with that monster. I can't let them leave me alone. I extracted a blood-sucking tentacle from my right shoulder and struck it at a knight's head with the red tentacle. With a gruesome sound, the knight's neck snapped, leaving them lifeless. How dare you! Enraged by their comrade's death, a knight fired their bolter at me. Quickly raising my head, I intercepted the plasma rounds coming from the bolter. While my head's exterior was the toughest, the collision caused a sharp, throbbing pain in my head and neck, although it is still bearable. But taking multiple hits in succession would be dangerous. To minimize the target area, I submerged myself in the debris-laden water, using all 4 of my combat arms and legs to swiftly move, confusing the knights. Where did it go? My lowered position exposed my back above the water level, yet the floating debris made it challenging for them to discern my presence. "It's over there." One knight, seeking vengeance for his fallen comrade, spotted me and aimed his bolter. "You darn! You fool, avoid it!" Vicuse shouted in panic, but it was too late. A plasma beam from the defense forces wiped out both the bolter and the knight's arm in one swift strike. Ah! The price of ignoring the defense forces to catch me was a costly mistake. The knight cried out as his arm, along with the armor, became dust and vanished. "Pull that idiot back immediately!" I couldn't miss such a golden opportunity. Grabbing the panicking knight by his severed arm, I hurled quills towards him. The neurotoxin-laden quills struck accurately at the severed area, causing the screaming knight to collapse as his nerve was affected due to the neurotoxins. As his screams faded, his bewildered companion tried to assist him. Rushing towards him, I pierced through two of the knights simultaneously with my horns. "Gah, monster!" Despite their pierced abdomen, the knight didn't give up. Swinging his blade claw, he managed to cut off a part of my hardened exterior. Thankfully, it's a less sensitive area. Had the monster's tentacle been severed, it would have caused substantial pain. Pointless resistance. I shook my head vigorously while still holding onto him with my horn. The horn lodged in his abdomen caused agony, making the knight groan. His arm, attempting to strike my forehead, lost strength and fell. "Die!" Another knight aimed at my back. I turned my head just as a plasma round was fired. Naturally, the knight became an unintentional meat shield for me due to my horn, shielding me from the shot. The sound of bursting flesh followed by the acrid smell of burnt flesh stimulated my auxiliary system. "Avoid friendly fire! Avoid! Arg!" Vice Commander Vicuse, who was commanding in agony, grabbed his shoulder after being hit by a piercing round. The sight of the commander wounded made the knights moral to flater. Since my surprise attack began, the situation had drastically reversed. "Good. This is our chance with the vice commander injured." The defense forces pressed aggressively against the knights. The front-line soldiers fired indiscriminately towards where I and the knights were, creating chaos. The rear soldiers evacuated the wounded and reorganized their formation. In contrast, the knights' formation collapsed entirely due to my attack. Those who were engaging with the defense forces were mostly incapacitated due to my assault, while others seemed confused about who to strike. With even their commander injured, the disadvantage for them accelerated. "The mission has failed. Retreat, everyone!" Finally, the word retreat sprang from Vicuse, who had been supported by his subordinates. Should I let them escape? Even if the relationship between the two families might deteriorate significantly because of me, there's a possibility that they ignore this and maintain a cooperative relationship for a while due to the council meeting. If I resume my hunt and go to the administrative district, I might encounter them again. You never know what might happen. It's best to minimize uncertainties. I attacked those retreating, gradually reducing their numbers. Not only me, but the defense forces also chased after the knights fleeing from this place. "Vice Commander, how should we deal with that monster?" "Penetrating rounds won't work on him. Fire the launcher." Amid slicing through a knight's throat, I heard the voice of the defense forces. "Is it time to retreat?" I checked the remaining number of knights. 6, including Vicuse, were fleeing. There were still dozens in the defense forces. They should be capable enough to handle the situation even without me. Let's end it here. Intentionally, I shook the corpse of the knight, showcasing it as if a beast would do with its prey. The defense forces, perceiving this as an opportunity, fired the launcher. A green light tore through the surface, flying towards me. Already anticipating the trajectory of their attacks through my auxiliary systems, I adjusted my head to align with the beam's path. The beam, capable of easily piercing through a ship's outer hull, collided with the exterior of my head. Ugh! The force was stronger than I expected, involuntarily causing me to take a few steps back. While most of the impact was absorbed by my thick exterior, the residual shock spread all over my body. The exterior on my neck, back, and legs ruptured with blood spurting out. I can still endure this. My body, which got covered in blood in an instant, had regenerative properties. As long as the brain in my head wasn't destroyed, these injuries would heal quickly. Activate apparent death. Pretending to collapse from being hit by the beam, I activated the apparent death trait. Instantly, all strength drained from my body. My body, now beyond control, collapsed into the sewer passage. The auxiliary organ beneath my chin, which had always been a source of support, fell limp, completely devoid of any sensation. I couldn't see or hear anything. The only sensation I felt was an eerie coldness. It felt like death. The thought that this might be a mistake was so strong that it seemed real. This feeling, but it's familiar. The inexplicable sense of familiarity dissipated along with my fleeting consciousness. That's how I died. Chapter 77. On the day of the board meeting in the morning, preparations for a grand event were in full swing at the skyscraper monument, owned by the T&C family. Amidst the bustling sound of footsteps of the attendants rushing throughout the entire building, there was one place which was cloaked in silence, a conference room within the monument. Gathered in that room were the city's ruler, Layla Kemblin, her secretary, and close aides. "What's the reaction from the Eden faction?" inquired Layla. "They plan to attribute this entire incident as Vice Commander Vicu's unilateral decision," responded the secretary. "Unilateral decision, you say?" Layla didn't even muster a hollow laugh at the secretary's words. Thanks to the camera records from the Defense Force survivors involved in the ghost hunt operation and the report from the crisis management team manager, she could grasp the root cause of the situation. Who unleashed the unidentified biological weapon? What did the Silver Lion Knights do to cover it up? She knew it all. "How dare they do this in my city?" Layla seethed. She had long known that Denver, despite his outwardly affable image, was a schemer. Yet she never imagined he would orchestrate such a scheme within her city, and that too before the commencement of the council meeting. Blaming everything on the vice commander? Shameless trickery. In the meeting where the Crisis Management Division manager reported about the incident in the sewer, Denver was also present. He feigned complete ignorance, but having held a position of authority for a long time, Layla could easily see through his lies. He claimed he knew nothing about it, and that the Night Order's actual power lay with the vice commander, and he occupied the commander's position merely for external appearances. But such excuses wouldn't fly with the daughter of the T&C family, who had a long association with the Eden family, who was identified as the sole survivor apart from the vice commander. Layla inquired further. "That would be Catherine from the Silver Lion Knights." "What's her condition?" Catherine, the only survivor aside from the vice commander, was found in a battered state amidst the ruins. Typically, she would have been immediately detained, but her injuries were so severe that she was being transported to the central hospital of the administrative district. Catherine is currently undergoing treatment due to severe PTSD and physical injuries. When will interrogation be possible? Her body may recover, but her mental trauma is so extensive that treatment is proving to be difficult. The doctor's assessment suggests a high likelihood of lifelong aphasia due to the aftereffects. PR/anaphasia is a disorder that affects how you communicate. It can impact your speech, as well as the way you write and understand both spoken and written language. Tusk, try to get the information by any means necessary once she's treated, even if it means to interrogate her. Understood. Incredibly, out of the only 2 survivors from the incident, one had aphasia while the other was missing. Vice Commander Vicu's, whom Denver accused of being the mastermind, was the most crucial figure, yet he couldn't be found, despite searching every nook and cranny. Of course, that's expected. He must have been eliminated already. Why the principal perpetrator remained undiscovered was almost certainty due to Denver's prior actions. Everything was crystal clear, yet he continued spinning lies. She wanted to summon her subordinates immediately to arrest Denver, but she displayed non-human patience and managed to send him away. Destruction of foundational facilities in the commercial district, a surprise attack on the naval fleet, and the smuggling of unidentified experimental subjects. There wasn't a single misdemeanor among them. This alone was enough to make her blood boil, but what infuriated her more was the decision to let that vile person go unpunished. Early in the morning, she had given a detailed report of the incident to her father, Samdam Kemblin. The response she received was singular. Do nothing but bury this? For her father, who was eyeing for the CEO position of Megacorp, the support of the Eden family was more critical than this special trade center. She understood what the family's long-standing goal was, so it wasn't something she couldn't comprehend. But letting it go like this would only turn her into a silent bystander, and she would have to face immense humiliation. Letting the perpetrator who humiliated me, the administrator of T&C Special Trade Center, go unpunished. Currently, everyone within Megacorp knew that Denver had pulled off a cunning maneuver against her. This was because the Daily Mass had reported her disgrace earlier in the morning. Wei Zhao, the filthy and disgraceful person. Thinking of Wei Zhao, who had exposed her through the Daily Mass, made her grind her teeth. Despite the significant damage to Denver's image due to the Daily Mass, he was still the head of the prime capital Eden family. However, she was different. She was just an administrator of a trade center who could be replaced at any time. If I keep going like this, I'll be the only one who will suffer. Her father, who valued practical interests over blood relatives, might choose to kick her out instead of seeking revenge for her. In other words, she might become a sacrifice to improve relations with the Eden family. Administrator, what do you want us to do? Arrest all those related to the Silver Lion Knights. Please keep the defense fleet under strict surveillance so that those on the flagship do not think of doing anything else. All right. Allow Denver to only move freely during the council meeting, otherwise don't allow him to come out. All she could do now was to limit the actions of the Eden family. Then let's go. The subordinates received the orders and left the conference room one by one. During this time, a meeting was held on purpose, but in the end, nothing was done. As Layla felt helpless at that fact, a thought passed through her mind. That's the only card I have left. Leela called back to the secretary who was about to leave the conference room. What happened to the test subject brought by the defense guards? Currently, the body is stored in a scientific research institute. The dissection experiment is scheduled to take place later in the afternoon. A strange creature smuggled into a special trade center by the Eden family. Its body was acquired by the city defense guard and has now been transported to the scientific research center located beneath the monument. A biological weapon newly developed by the Eden family. Getting something out of the body was her only takeaway if she wanted to get out of this situation. We have to get something out of that devilish monster somehow, otherwise it won't make sense at all. I will pass it on as is. Everyone had already felt the power of Eden's secret weapon. The Crisis Management Division manager, a brave warrior, had a terrified look on his face several times during the report. What if T&C, or rather Layla Kemblin, was able to obtain the monster's genes and mass-produce it? It would be no problem to monopolize the real power of the family to do this. When that day comes, I will definitely become the head of the family. Layla's eyes burned quietly in the conference room where the secretary left, and she was left alone. A few hours before Layla dreamed of rebellion at the monument, Vice Commander Vicus of the Silver Lion Knights was still in the sewers. The soldiers searching for him were constantly patrolling the area. He's not here. Check elsewhere, keep searching. All right, ugh, when will this communication network get fixed? As the pursuers moved away, Vicus, hidden nearby, cautiously raised his head above the water. His current state was dire. His advanced armor was almost out of energy. He had discarded everything except the chest armor which was connected to the helmet. Without power, the advanced armor was as heavy as a lump of lead, leaving him no choice but to remove it. He muttered with a defeated expression. To be brought down like this? He thought he had been sufficiently vigilant and prepared, but he had been completely mistaken. The creature's intelligence surpassed his imagination, causing chaos among both the defense force and the knights. I must somehow get out and convey this truth to her. Vicus knew his master had abandoned him. Seeing soldiers searching for him externally, it would appear he had unilaterally attacked the defense force. But that didn't matter. Denver had once told him that if something went wrong, he'd have to take responsibility, and he had agreed. He was the sword that safeguarded his master. The sword moved as its owner desired, and it had no free will. It seems there are no more soldiers nearby. Feeling the complete absence of any indication, Vicus moved again. There was a nearby path leading outside, a new opening formed by the collapse of the sewer ceiling. Taking refuge amidst the ruins, there would surely provide an opportunity. Damn it! Without the protective armor, he had to brave the freezing water directly. Moreover, despite receiving treatment for his injured shoulder, it still ached persistently. Perhaps the combination of depleted stamina and injury caused it. He coughed incessantly. Blocking his coughing mouth with his hand, Vicus moved diligently. As he continued, he spotted a glimmer of light ahead. "I'm almost there." Emerging from the murky water, Vicus climbed up the debris. Having been in the water for so long, his fingers were swollen, and rummaging through the hard metal fragments caused blood to come out from his hand. Just a bit more. Enduring the pain shooting up his arm, Vicus crawled upward. He was almost at the surface, just a little further to reach out his hand. The moment he reached out, the world around him stopped. No, it wasn't the world that had stopped. It was him. His body slowly floated up before being sucked back into the sewer. What's happening? He was taken aback as an intangible pressure suddenly crushed his entire being. It felt like diving into the depths without any protective gear. "Gah, sunt, stop, HNGH, arg." His limbs began twisting uncontrollably. His body seemed detached from his control, bending and breaking like a rigid puppet attached to sturdy strings. Fingers, wrists, arms, toes, ankles, legs, all bent and fractured at unnatural angles. His waist twisted in the opposite direction, and rib bones protrude through torn flesh. Though Vicus involuntarily screamed, his voice never made it out. As he looked back one last time, he saw there were pink balloons and 2 purple irises. Food me eat. Yeah, the little one can eat it all. Having successfully hunted, it handed food to the small child. While the little one dined, it vigilantly surveyed the surroundings. The elder child seemed oblivious, but it had grown further from their previous skirmish. It had learned to precisely control the mystical power innate within it, enabling it to detect and influence distant objects. Thanks to this, it could observe where the child it loved was located. The little one must grow quickly? Reason not sure. The big baby is struggling to protect us alone, so we must help him. It had not only grown physically, but also mentally. It could sense the effort the beloved child was putting into their protection, rooted partly in selfish desires, but gradually mingled with a growing sense of affection. Like it, the younger child was changing. When the little one grows, the elder one will surely be pleased. Me grow up happiness welcome. It didn't resent the younger child's attitude. It held such a significant place within the elder child's heart. Me growth grown up understand quiet, finish eating quickly. Pain. After scolding the babbling little one, she contemplated her next move. Though the big baby wished for quiet hiding, it had slightly different thoughts. There are too many dangerous creatures here. It's hard for the big baby to fight alone. To assist him, it needed to grow as much as possible before meeting him. Finish this and let's move elsewhere, where there's food. Thankfully, the underground area was abundant with nutrient-rich, easily hunted prey. Corpses of 4 appendage-bearing creatures scattered throughout. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. It seems the camouflage worked. Regaining consciousness, I first surveyed my location using the auxiliary organ. The strong smell of chemical solutions, faint scent of blood, electromagnetic waves in the air, and the mechanical noises from scattered devices all spoke to me. This was the Skyscraper Monument's underground research lab. Currently, I lay tied atop a large metal dissection table in the laboratory. Although I would have recognized if I was a corpse, some wariness had led me to encase my arms and legs in metal shackles. Leave this be. No matter how tough it is, it's futile against my strength. I could break it immediately, but I refrained from doing so because there were surveillance cameras in the lab. Calculations and careful movements are necessary to avoid trouble. Where to look? The genetic sample repository must be nearby. The Special Trade Center isn't strictly dedicated to genetic research. It's more akin to an all-encompassing entertainment facility. Yet, it's unlikely that the Megacorp Science Research Facility wouldn't have a genetic sample repository. The Underground Research Lab is a facility conducting various studies to breed compliant employees for T and C through genetic modification, ensuring their lack of resistance to the company. The main objective is to manipulate genetics to create humans as inferior slaves, unlike the Hulk mutants. While rare creature genetics might not be available here, there are some types worth targeting. I just need the genes related to the new type unlock. Currently, I have a trait that increases the probability of acquiring genes from hunted prey, and that is symbol of hunt. Using it here will unlock the types that I need. But someone needs to come to aid. For my plan to succeed safely, certain conditions must be met. Until then, I have to wait. After a while, I sensed activity outside the lab. The administrator wants to know if we can extract genes from the creature for weaponization. Yeah, they say it's the monster that devoured dozens of soldiers and knights. The door opened after confirming the ID, and 4 lab-coated researchers entered, wearing supplementary gear for dissecting giant organisms. They had exoskeletons, enhancing the appearance of the suits compared to regular reinforced gear with 2 additional android-like auxiliary arms on their backs. It looks terrifying. Are we dissecting this thing? Yeah, looks like another overtime today. Let's get ready quickly. The researchers began arranging explosive chemicals and dissection tools on the dissection table using their auxiliary arms. Chemical solutions. I needed a smoke screen, and this was perfect. I subtly moved my tail toward where the chemical solutions were. One of the researchers turned around. I remained completely still, mimicking my original state. Did I see wrong? Hey, stop dawdling and help. Okay. Unaware of any oddity, he focused on assisting his colleagues, moving dissection tools without suspicion. All conditions are met. Before utilizing the symbol of the hunt, there are some conditions that are to be fulfilled. However, using the symbol of hunt had some side effects, such as inducing an intense appetite, which could make me lose my sanity when it wore off if no prey was around. To avoid mishaps, I need to prepare some prey in advance. The 4 researchers in this lab would become sacrifices for activating symbol of the hunt, of course. They need to help me a bit before that. With surveillance cameras around, sneaking out covertly wasn't easy. That's why I needed helpful allies, friendly ones who obey my commands. Chapter 78. In the administrative district of the Special Trade Hub stands a towering building monument. Veteran players refer to this place as the BLXMAX. Looking at it, it does resemble a twisted donut for sure. However, its resemblance to extraterrestrial artifacts in classic horror games is only superficial. The setting is quite different. The monument in space survival doesn't drive people insane or transform them into strange forms. Instead, it has a feature that buffs the owner. When a clan owns a monument, it gains a clan-only trait called Slave Trait. Clans with this talent are pumped with more than double the profit from the planet. They own this made it a highly sought-after monument for large clans to acquire at all costs. As a result, there was always a lot of warfare in these trade centers. In a way, it's an homage to BLXMAX. There have been many clans that have gone to war for the monument and lost. For me, ownership of the monument held no interest. Instead, I focused on the clan members attempting to obtain it. In the past, I'd infiltrated the monument in various ways to extract genetic essence from the clan members. Once, I even disguised myself using the apparent death trait, feigning death. I was planning to spend the night at the entertainment district today. You're a married man, yet you still visit such places. Come on, being married doesn't mean you stop having fun. Don't you dare get married. Crazy. So, is this true that you are working overtime near the year-end? Seriously? You don't even have a partner. What's there to complain about? No partner means no life. I also want to relax at a resort, visit exotic places, have chance encounters, meet my destined love, and then parting? Stop the nonsense and help me with this. The researchers chatted while moving the equipment. They seemed to completely ignore my existence. Fine. Amidst their idle chatter, I activated the parasitic colony. Black thread-like creatures emerged from the fingertips of my lower right arm. Hide below the dissection table, all of you. Huh? What's going on? It seems odd, like it moved. It's dead, why bother? Don't pay attention to useless things. One researcher scrutinized me before returning to preparations. There are 4 researchers, all wearing masks. The parasites had no offensive abilities, unable to breach the masks on their own. I need to create an opening for the parasites to enter. If I shoot the thorns of my tail to make a hole, it should be possible. However, I can't move immediately due to surveillance cameras. Checking the camera's direction through the auxiliary organ, there is no blind spot in the dissection room. To conceal the tail's movement, I need smoke. Chemical products for generating smoke are conveniently placed near my tail, but just those won't produce enough smoke. To induce a chemical reaction, a catalyst is needed, like an acidic solution. Fortunately, my blood has a strong acidic effect. I'll have to wait a bit longer. They came here to dissect anyway. When they spill my blood, it'll be time for me to move. Asterisk, 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 all right. All set. The head of the dissection team under the Biological Management Division of the Science Research Institute clapped, lifting the mood in the room. Next to the dissection area stood a stainless steel table holding various tools. On the table lay medical instruments like scalpels and medical saws, a plasma cutter for cutting tough skin, and chemical solutions to preserve tissue samples. Despite the era of space explorations and colonization, the dissection procedures hadn't evolved much from their primitive forms. Where should we start from? Given its position, how about starting from the back? Let's proceed slowly. Let's start by collecting a sample of the skin tissues. Following the team leader's instructions, a researcher picked up a scalpel. The auxiliary arms of the exoskeleton suits also held genetic data analyzers and cover glasses. Shall we identify the creature first? The team leader sliced into the monster's arm section with a scalpel. Huh! Instead of the arm's surface being cut, the scalpel blade broke. It's incredibly tough. This is nearly at the level of an adult mountain crawler. Try this. A colleague handed over a sonic blade. Smaller than a military version, this one was a medical tool, but its effect was identical. When the researcher pressed the switch, a thin blade emerged from the bulky stick, emitting an eerie sound due to its ultrasonic vibration. Where? As the researcher attempted to bring the sonic blade closer to the creature's corpse. Huh, it's moving. He noticed a slight movement in the creature's tail, and his colleague beside him smirked as if seeing the same thing. Perhaps it's the muscles relaxing after death. Why, yeah, that must be it. Phew, that startled me. But if this thing is alive, we're probably already dead, right? Hey, don't say scary things. Enough chit-chat. Quickly collect skin samples. The researcher scraped the monster's arm with the sonic blade. The sound of metal on metal echoed as sparks flew. That doesn't sound like something from an animal's body. Continuing to scratch with the sonic blade, finally, scratches began to appear on the creature's exoskeleton. Great! A bit more and oops! At that moment, the blade completely malfunctioned, its ultrasonic effect shutting off. Despite the tool being ruined, they managed to cut out a tiny skin fragment. It's small but enough for analysis. Place the sample into the analyzer. It is stubbornly tough. Let's try the plasma cutter this time. 2 researchers picked up the plasma cutter. Typically, due to recoil, cutters were secured in stable positions, like on the ground. However, with the exoskeleton suit's auxiliary arms designed to withstand high weights, they could handle the cutter's recoil. The auxiliary arms firmly grasped the plasma cutter to prevent any shaking. Adjusting the cutter's terminal, aiming it at the corpse's surface, the researchers pressed the activation button. A thin green beam sprayed out, scorching the surface of the skin. Even a creature with sturdy biological armor couldn't withstand plasma energy. It pierced through effortlessly. Meanwhile, as the analysis of the sample was complete, the data analyzer displayed a notification. Surprised, the researcher called the head of the dissection team before finishing the sentence. This creature is an unknown species not registered in the Megacorp database. Oh. Is it a new species, then? Strangely, it shares dozens of types of genes. Before the researcher could finish his sentence, a problem occurred on the side where they were piercing the exoskeleton with the cutter. Team leader, smoke is coming from the body. No, wait, this isn't smoke. Crazy, the blood is acidic. As the researcher shouted, the blood flowing from the corpse was melting the dissection table. The blood is splashing this way, be careful. Not only that, but due to the cutter's beam, acidic blood splattered towards the researchers. If a nearby researcher hadn't pulled him back, he might have suffered significant injuries. Ouch, thanks. Get yourself together. While the grateful colleague checked if he was okay, the researcher discovered something strange attached to his body. Huh, what's this on your body? A black thread-like creature was attached to his colleague's side. He wondered if he was mistaken, but he wasn't. It wriggled and crawled upwards. Huh, what is this? Just like him, other researchers had black thread-like creatures attached to them. What the? As the researcher was shivering, trying to control the auxiliary arm to remove the creature, he heard the sound of breaking glass. Subsequently, the sound of something splashing water followed, and a hot heat was felt on the back. When he turned his head, he saw a table where chemical solutions were placed, engulfed in flames. The acrid smoke from the chemical solution quickly rose, enveloping the researchers. Fire! Cuk Kekok! Get the fire extinguisher! Panic-stricken researchers were scrambling around as the motionless corpse of the monster lying on the ground suddenly twitched. Its tail, which had been twitching, launched thorn-like spikes towards the faces of the researchers. Oops! What was that just now? Fortunately, the spikes missed, only brushing past the faces of the dissection team leader and the researchers. Their masks tore, exposing their flesh to the noxious smoke. What's this? Where did that come from? The sudden assault of sharp objects left the researchers bewildered, yet there was something else they should have been concerned about. The black parasites stuck to their bodies. Parasites from the monster's body had swiftly climbed and affixed themselves to the researchers' faces. Ah! Help! Ugh! Cough! The researchers hurriedly covered their faces, but the parasites had already entered their masks. They coughed, trying to dislodge the parasites from their nasal passages or scratched their faces in a frantic attempt to grab hold of the creatures. If they had remained a bit calmer, they might have used the strength of their powerful auxiliary arms to pull the parasites out. However, the sudden fire and the onslaught of unfamiliar parasitic creatures made it difficult for them to maintain composure. Asterisk sprinkler sound asterisk due to the smoke, the sprinklers inside the lab activated, showering water. Amidst the downpour, one by one, the researchers stopped moving due to the parasite attacks. Gulp. The last remaining was the dissection team manager. He exerted all his effort to remove the parasite that had partially infiltrated his body. As the parasite had penetrated halfway into his body, he managed to grasp the parasite's tail with great difficulty. Feeling the slimy and unpleasant sensation in their palm, he desperately tried to pull the parasite out. It resisted, stimulating the back of their throat, preventing it from being pulled out. Ugh, cough, kehuk. While retching, the dissection team leader didn't release his grip, trying relentlessly to extract the parasite. Just as he was about to nearly remove it, he suddenly felt as if his strength was draining from his body. Why? A long bristle was embedded in their limp wrist. Meanwhile, the parasite had forcefully penetrated deeper into their nostril, but they couldn't feel any pain. Before collapsing and kneeling on the ground, he witnessed it, the monster, lying in a prone position on the dissection table, its white eyes staring directly at him. It wasn't dead. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk monuments, 3rd Central Control Room. The first day of the council meeting had already concluded, but the management office couldn't afford to take a break. Anna, the cult caretaker with goat horns, was monitoring the surveillance cameras with a bored expression. Her colleague, a male cultist with ram horns, stretched and got up from his seat. Where are you going? For coffee, want me to make you one too? Yeah, strong, without sugar. As the male cultist left, Anna refocused on the surveillance. Thanks to her psychic powers specialized in observation, she could monitor hundreds of surveillance cameras simultaneously. She wasn't the only one. All the cultists working in this administrative district possessed unique psychic powers that contributed to city management. Ugh, I just want to go home, take a shower, and sleep. Having abilities that helped with work didn't necessarily mean that the job was enjoyable. Originally, the Third Central Management Office had 3 observers, including a female cultist named Jeanette. If Jeanette hadn't gone missing, Anna wouldn't have had to work overtime for days. That woman fleeing without a word, I wish I could run away too. Grumbling to herself, she continued monitoring when something odd caught her eye. Science Lab 30, is there a fire? The camera showed smoke-filled surroundings with researchers in apparent panic. Soon, the sprinklers activated, turning the lab into a sea of water. What's happening? Why are they? The frantic researchers suddenly stopped in unison, standing still as the water poured over them. One of them seemed to have lost consciousness, collapsing, but no one was supporting them. Anna felt something eerie. Something was wrong. Regardless if there was a fire she needed to confirm, she grabbed the communication device. As she contacted them, the people beyond the camera, who had been motionless, suddenly, as if by command, started working to handle the aftermath. One researcher retrieved the communication device from the dissection team leader. Third Central Control Room here. Was there a fire in Lab 30? A chemical solution spilled, causing a fire. It should be normalized soon. Do you need the fire suppression team? No, absolutely do not call them. What about the person who collapsed? Do you really not need help? They just briefly fainted due to inhaling noxious fumes. They'll wake up soon. Is that so? Yes, yeah. Anyway, once the team leader wakes up, we need to move this corpse so you don't need to monitor anymore. Goodbye. After the call ended, Anna stared at the communication device strangely. Why are they so jittery? Perhaps it was due to the sudden incident. The researcher's voice sounded unusually shaky, as if afraid of something, and transporting specimens in the middle of the night. As she pondered, her cult colleague came in with coffee. What's wrong? Oh, there's a fire in the dissection room, and the response from the researchers seemed odd. That's where all the eccentrics go, don't worry about it. Is that so? Since her colleague's words made sense, Anna eventually let go of her doubts about the fire in Lab 30. There are many other things to do anyway. She pushed thoughts about the dissection team to the back of her mind and drank coffee with her colleague. As expected, a call came in right after. The call was answered by a researcher under my control, but I know who called him. The cult members in the management room. One of Monument's features is that the cult members handle indoor surveillance duties. Human beings have many flaws, such as being easily shaken by sudden incidents, while androids lack autonomous thinking abilities. However, cults have very few weaknesses. Thanks to their psychic powers, they have a much keener sense than humans, easily detecting sneaky enemies or traps. Due to these traits, cult immigrants to Megacorp mainly assume roles like surveillance and reconnaissance, as per their design to enjoy hunting down adversaries. Cult members, akin to wolves, are innate hunters and observers. Despite the era of traveling through space on ships, remnants of traditional hunting culture linger within cult society. Known as quests, the cult's unique system typically revolves around hunting specific animals for their horns or hearts. Nevertheless, cult members working alongside humans tend to have fewer of these tendencies. If it were a planet inhabited solely by cult members, my plans might have been immediately thwarted. However, cult members in Megacorp possess comparatively less acute senses, relying less on intuition due to the complexities in human society. They might have found it peculiar but likely considered it none of their business and moved on. Of course, if such incidents occur frequently, they'll eventually take action. That's something I should be cautious about when moving forward with my plans. Anyway, I've successfully executed half of my infiltration plan into the administrative district. I'll transport the team manager once he wakes up, said the researcher, to which I subtly nodded. Next stop for me is the genetic storage. It's a place for storing carcasses of large animals like me, and to my knowledge, there are no surveillance cameras inside. I'm certain due to a similar tactic used in an old game where I infiltrated hiding among animal carcasses. Is there a genetic storage facility here? Yes. Yes, there is. It's right next to us, so don't worry. Moreover, the facility layout aligns ideally with what I desire. I could instruct the researchers to fetch the samples. Being close means I don't need to leave many authentication records while moving around, which means there's little for the observers to find suspicious. After consuming the genetic samples, I could just prey on the researchers. Once the effects of the symbol of hunt are over, I could call them, resolving any side effects. Is there a more perfect way to do this? How to make sure that if researchers suddenly disappear, even Monuments administrators won't know until much later? Suddenly, a good idea struck me. The phone call from earlier. It seemed like something I could use to my advantage. Chapter 79. Akira, sir, will soon arrive at the T&C Special Trade Center. Akira Yujin, who was taking a break in the special capsule that regulates his body, opened his eyes at the voice of his subordinate. As the capsule opened, a young woman approached him. She was astonishingly beautiful but lacked any emotions in her eyes. She held the position of Code Black among the shadows of the Yujin family, making her one of Akira's closest aides. Without any expression, she handed Akira a towel and a black beverage. How much time has passed? It's been a week since we started the journey. We'll be a day late compared to the scheduled date. He didn't ask what happened or why they were delayed. The shadows would have handled it well. In the ship they were on, the flagship of the Yujin family named Heaven's Sword, 3 shadows were on board to escort Akira. Not just Code Black, but also Code Red and Code Blue were performing security duties somewhere inside the ship. Akira casually tossed the towel aside and left the capsule room. Code Black, leaving the handling of the capsule room to the others, followed behind Akira. As they walked towards the bridge together, Akira spoke suddenly. The T&C Special Trade Center. It was thriving even before I became the head. Is that so? They called it Hwamu Shipulhong, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, which means when the moon becomes full, things are bound to tilt. Note: Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter is a Korean idiom that translates to flowers bloom for 10 days without withering. This expression conveys the idea of predictability or inevitability, suggesting that certain events follow a natural course, much like the cyclical nature of flowers blooming and the full moon rising. It symbolizes the fleeting nature of moments and serves as a metaphor for the impermanence of life's pleasures. Before Akira Yujin, who had been re-elected as CEO 3 times, 2 families held the longest reign over the megacorp throne. The Veda family, famous for android and AI development, and the Garmelda family, renowned for enhanced combat. In the early days of Megacorp, the Veda family monopolized the CEO position, but they rapidly declined after the rise of the Star Union. Currently, the Veda family barely maintained their status under noble capital. In contrast, the Garmelda family, who received support from the elders of the Eden family, sustained its dominance as the CEO of the Megacorp for a long time. Following Garmelda, the next influential family among the noble capital was T&C. As they held significant sway in space development, T&C never lost its top position in noble capital. At that time, the Yujin family didn't have much influence in the upper class of the Megacorp. Some mocked us as a family which belonged to the lower classes. While slightly exaggerated, what Akira said wasn't entirely inaccurate. The impact of Yujin's cheap genetically modified food for the lower-tiered capitals was substantial. In fact, Yujin's share in Megacorp's food supply was almost 50%. However, despite its importance in Megacorp, the Yujin family lacked influence over other noble capitals. As one ascended in the capital tiers, the consumption of genetically modified food sharply declined. As a result, during the council meetings for the CEO selections, the Yujin family frequently faced defeat from the other families. The turning point for Yujin was when their Hulk mutants were deployed on the front lines. The previous generations actively pursued using genetically modified soldiers in war due to their potential. And it was during Akira's time as the new head of the family that they finally saw the fruition of that strategy by selling the Hulk mutants to other families. Of course, there was opposition within the family to Akira's decision to sell what was essentially a secret weapon, but he wasn't worried. Eugen's genetic modification technology was unparalleled. Other families attempted to develop the Hulk mutants but failed due to technological shortcomings. Recently, Eden's coward seems to be playing games, but it's unlikely that it will reap fruits. Akira utilized his shadows to scout for information on various families within the Megacorp, so he already knew what the Eden family was planning. Are you referring to the Silver Lion Knights? That's right. Mixing just 2 or 3 genes and blabbering about the essence of genetic modification technology, isn't it rather amusing? If Denver listened to this, he would have been greatly infuriated, but Akira had the right to say such things. In fact, Code Black standing before him now justified this. Those belonging to the Shadows were ultimate biological weapons synthesized with over dozens of genetic types. It seems T and Ceticus Snake intends to only take out the filling through Eden, but they started wrong from the first button. It would have been better if they supported our Eugen family. Of course, the likelihood of Samdom, who coveted the CEO position more than anyone else, forming an alliance with Akira was low. Even if he requested, Akira wouldn't have complied with it. During their non-verbal conversation, they arrived at the bridge. The soldiers on the bridge, who were focused on their duties, quieted down and bowed their heads when they saw Akira. Heh, it seems this council meeting will be truly enjoyable. Akira, who sat on the commander's seat on the bridge, smiled looking forward to the upcoming council meeting. ******, a genetic storage. It's been a while since I've been here. Under the blue lighting, dissected bodies of creatures were visible in various places. Some were stacked on stainless steel tables, while those resembling human bodies were vacuum-sealed in plastic, hanging from hooks on the ceiling. The eerie feeling from the lighting and the creepy scene were just like in a game, but there were 2 differences. The cold breeze from the air conditioning units on the walls and the smell emanating from the bodies. These sensations were beyond what a game could provide. Now that I see it for real, it gives a very uncomfortable feeling. There was an incident where I once ambushed users hiding among corpses in here, and they questioned why I always popped out in scary places. At that time, I couldn't fathom why they were making such ridiculous complaints, but now it was definitely an atmosphere worthy of complaint. The genetic list you requested? The team leader, who was under my control because of the parasite inside him, handed me a terminal pad. I had requested it before coming here to find out what was in the genetic storage. I need to pick out what to consume first. In the unlikely event of an unforeseen occurrence, it might become challenging to obtain genetic samples. Hence, selecting and consuming what was necessary first would minimize losses in case of an accident. Let's see. Using my small arms, I carefully checked the list displayed on the pad. The variety of species held here was less diverse than what I expected. There were just numerous samples collected from the same species, but that's not necessarily bad. Even considering only the traits obtained from humans, there were more than 1 or 2. The same went for other creatures. Even if the number of species was limited, each creature could offer various traits. I should target samples from species that have beneficial traits. I scrolled down the list slowly, inspecting it meticulously. Initially, I thought the list was unsatisfactory, but midway, I noticed 2 creature types holding traits I needed. A metallic gremlin, and the sample of the other creature that caught my attention was something I could never obtain here under normal circumstances. I understand the metallic gremlin, but it was puzzling why T and C possessed a sample of a creature posing a significant threat to the space city. Metallic gremlins, as a species, had the negative trait of dwarfism throughout their entire race. Just as a morph couldn't interact with other races, metallic gremlins could never grow taller than 1 meter, no matter what they did. Even the tallest among them, the king gremlin, was around 1 meter 50 centimeters. They probably injected the dwarfism trait to make their employees weaker. While I could understand the metallic gremlin, I was quite puzzled about how that sample was obtained by T&C. How did you acquire this? It's a sample collected while dissecting the smuggled animals. The world is vast, and there are many people indeed. I hadn't expected someone to smuggle that. When considering its size, we'd need a container at least 5 times larger than the Harbor Earth's containers. Well, there are people smuggling mountain crawlers and galagans, so why not? I roughly agreed and glanced over the rest of the list. Apart from the 2 creatures, there didn't seem to be any other organisms with particularly important traits. Still, obtaining its genes would yield tremendous results. It's because that specific creature possessed traits that could help me unlock a new type. Getting that type would significantly expand what I could do, especially since it grants the ability for space travel. Quietly chanting with excitement, I selected around 30 samples and instructed the team leader to get them. As expected, the team leader who saw that genetic sample showed signs of concern. Is this the creature you're referring to? 5 samples of a rare species require a P permit, perhaps something else. No. Even if it meant giving up everything else, that had to be collected at all costs. Ultimately, the team leader left the genetic storage with a distressed expression. What should we do? Wait. Even with the assurance of doing nothing, the faces of the 3 researchers were filled with anxiety. Unfortunately, they had only one future left, a sacrifice to calm the aftermath of the symbol of hunt. But how can I lure the cult members here? It's better to consume it while the effects of the symbol of hunt persist. It's an opportunity to obtain valuable traits in the psychic category. I remember each surveillance team had a total of 3 members. If I could pull all 3 simultaneously, it would be ideal, but the probability was low. One must always remain in the control room. The original plan was to lure cult members into the genetic storage using the researchers and inject the parasite in them when they arrived. But after seeing the list, I decided to change my plans slightly. If I acquire traits from Metallic Gremlin, I can become more proactive. Metallic gremlins possess a trait like an EMP that disrupts all the machinery in their vicinity. With that trait, it wouldn't be difficult to seize not only one cult member, but also control the management room. So, deliberately increasing the chance of extracting good traits, I requested multiple samples per organism. There were a total of 8 samples each for Metallic Gremlin, and that in the storage. Meaning, I had 8 opportunities to acquire the traits of those creatures each. Of course, if all I get is dwarfism. It's a total loss, however. Even with dwarfism, I could deploy various strategies, like navigating through ventilation ducts or ambushing enemies by hiding in human corpses. In this monument, where there were many spaces accessible to small bodies, dwarfism wasn't a bad trait for assaulting the building. The problem is, in this game, once you acquire a trait, you can't discard it. Unless the Transcendent system eliminates the dwarfism trait, I'll be unable to exceed 1m in height until I reach Ascendant. With numerous adversaries ahead, some needing to be subdued by force, dealing with them alone won't be easy with a small stature. Though I don't plan on acquiring it anyway, I've brought them. While pondering how to handle cult members, the team leader returned. He placed the capsule containing the samples on a stainless steel table. Great. Shall we begin then? I activated the symbol of hunt. Eek. As my body rapidly grew, the researchers inside the genetic storage gasped in awe. My exoskeleton covered my eyes, and my horn grew even larger. My body swelled, reaching nearly 5m from the initial 3m. Thanks to the tail's corresponding enlargement, the combined length of my body and tail nearly approached 10m. Combat-ready arms sprouted, resembling shields at the wrists, and 2 bone-bladed arms emerged from my back. Grrrrr. I growled softly, feeling the overwhelming sensation throughout my body. One of the overwhelmed researchers seemed on the verge of fainting, whimpering, "Ooh!" Then came the rising smell of ammonia. But no one blamed him. They all had identical expressions. Ignoring their reactions, I used my smaller arm to pick up the capsule containing the samples. The surface of the capsule was inscribed with the words Sky Whale. Shall we unlock a new type then? I needed the traits of the Sky Whale, the most. I placed the capsule with the genetic samples of Sky Whale in my mouth. The capsule broke inside and the essence of the genetic material permeated my body. All right. Success. Predation effect activated. Successfully obtained spaceflight incomplete. Genetic essence. Extracted spaceflight incomplete from the biological traits of Sky Whale. Do you want to apply spaceflight incomplete? Note: cheats are not allowed. An urgent message has arrived. As always, when the predation effect occurred, a semi-transparent text box appeared. This time, it contained additional information. What? No cheats allowed? Seriously? I hurriedly opened the urgent message. When the predation effect is triggered for a sample during the symbol of hunt, only incomplete units of genetic essence will be obtained. To completely acquire a trait, the predation effect targeting the same trait from the same sample must occur twice. Note: this is for balancing the transcendent system. Crazy. I have faced a lot of adversities since I arrived in this world. At the beginning, I had panicked because of the unfamiliar body and struggled to survive against those adversities. Furthermore, there were situations unfamiliar to me in the game, and I had found myself in danger. But I, as the sole player among the amorphs who had entered the Ranker level, utilized my experience and knowledge I gained over a long time of playing as an amorph to overcome obstacles. Hence, I had forgotten that space survival was an insanely challenging game. Chapter 80. Space survival is a game known for its expansive universe, diverse races, and high level of freedom, making it appealing to sci-fi enthusiasts. While it's a game that caters well to fans of the genre, it, like many online games, faced issues, particularly in its management. The team behind Space Survival had a notorious reputation for being more dysfunctional than any other game's developers. Given the game's characteristics, balancing issues were rampant. For instance, comparing cultists who rarely show any weakness from the beginning to end and the amorphs who are challenging to play from the very beginning, there was a clear imbalance. Despite this, there were very few instances where the developers adjusted the balance. I, too, had a fondness for amorphs, which allowed me to rank up and experience the endings. If it hadn't been the case, I might have quit. But they changed right away. It's the first time I've seen such a prompt response from the management amidst all the balance complaints. Cheating. There were similar incidents in past games. Megacorp operates multiple colonial planets to recruit employees. Some planets resemble Earth with familiar environments, while others are fantastical. However, they all have restrictions, be it tangible or intangible, making it impossible for them to resist Megacorp's dominance. Employees on these planets had poor armaments, or the planet lacked advanced civilizations. In other words, these are places where gathering genetic essence is remarkably easy. Hence, I once roamed only on these colonial planets, gathering genetic essence. On a day when I raided about 3 planets simultaneously, an urgent notice appeared in the game. They claimed an unforeseen situation occurred and immediate adjustments were necessary. At that time, the community buzzed with speculation, yet no one knew precisely what had changed. It had to happen. They didn't play as an amorph after all like I did. Unlike them, I could immediately discern what the issue was. The next day, I attacked colonial planets to harvest numerous genetic essences, but the instances of the predation effect were extremely rare among them. It meant that the administration had adjusted the probability of the predation effect being triggered by employees of these colonial planets to be extremely low. Even after devouring dozens of employees here, only one trait emerged. Anyway, having experienced something similar before, this situation didn't feel that unfamiliar to me. However, as a human, I couldn't help feeling extremely unsettled. They talk about development intentions and leave other things uncorrected, yet they swiftly modify this. If this continues, I will have to change my plans again. If the traits keep appearing incomplete even after consuming samples, it won't be worth it. Let's just take this for now. I accepted the offer to obtain the spaceflight trait. As indicated by incomplete, there was no noticeable change in my body. I felt a sense of disappointment and irritation at the fact, pondering on what to do next. The samples need to be consumed after the symbol of hunt ends. That's when there's at least a possibility, huh? At that moment, a semi-transparent text box appeared once again. New unread message has arrived. Would you like to read it? There were no words indicating that it was an urgent message or the like. Last time, a similar message came regarding the Transcendence system. Upon checking, my anticipation was correct. Transcendence material list. Form mimicry, pheromone enhancement, clairvoyance, hallucination, not acquired. Transcendence material list. New. Wings, endurance, spaceflight, gigantism, not acquired. Hijacking, not acquired. Sure enough, it was a guide suggesting the creation of a new unique trait using the Transcendence system. Who's trying to trick me now? Suppressing the rising irritation, I attempted to dismiss the text box. Wait, at that moment, a single idea flashed across my mind. I revisited the text box. Why space flight? The Transcendence material list marks the traits I don't possess as not acquired. Gigantism and hijacking are traits that I don't have and are separately indicated as such. However, there's no additional indication for spaceflight. Realizing this fact, I deduced a possibility. Could it be that the Transcendence materials can be used for traits I haven't completely acquired? I revisited the previous message regarding the Transcendence system. Transcendence system merges 3 or more possessed traits into a new unique trait. The newly acquired trait is entirely new and previously non-existent. It was the message I received back then. The tooltip mentions merging possessed traits, not specifically usable traits. I can't use wings, but if they're included in the materials, there might be a chance. If traits rendered unusable due to restrictions are included, couldn't space flight be used as a transcendence material? An intriguing hypothesis. If so, the paths ahead split into 2 for me. First, to gather transcendence materials by manifesting the predation effect in the state of the symbol of hunt. Gigantism and hijacking might be possible with a stroke of luck. Gigantism can be obtained from the sky whales, and hijacking is a fusion trait that can be acquired from the metallic gremlins. I need to merge the dexterity trait with the interference trait. Of course, fusion traits can only be made with fully functional traits, so my trick might not work. I need to acquire the interference trait twice to use it as a material. That's as far as the first option goes. The other choice is simply waiting for the effect of the symbol of hunt to end and then take the samples. In this case, acquiring a completely usable trait solely depends on triggering the predation effect, but the downside is that the probability of triggering it will be very low. If luck isn't on my side, even consuming all the samples here might not yield me a single trait. I looked down at the samples. What should I do? After a brief contemplation, I made a decision. Let's consume one right now. In a situation where both options rely on luck, acquiring a trait through the symbol of hunt appeared to be less risky. At least, even if luck doesn't favor me, I would at least get some incomplete traits. I picked up a sample and swallowed it. With a gurgling sound, a text box appeared signifying the predation effect. Predation effect activated. Successfully obtained energy absorption, genetic essence energy absorption. Sky whales are creatures that periodically appear on various forest or ocean-type planets, though the probability is quite low. Their appearance includes 8 eyes and wings displaying multiple opalescent colors. They are colossal in size, reaching a minimum of over 50 meters. Sky whales spend their lives in the sky, except for 3 instances: when they're born, when they give birth, and when they die. Unlike typical animals, they don't acquire energy through meals. Lacking a proper digestive system, they utilize the energy absorption trait to draw energy for survival from natural sources like light, air, and moisture in clouds. While it might seem like an excellent ability, it's not suitable for an amorph. If I acquire energy absorption, my mouth and digestive system would deteriorate, A morph gains traits and nutrients by consuming its prey and digesting the genetic essence within them. If I apply energy absorption, the side effect would result in the loss of my mouth and digestive system, effectively eliminating my means of obtaining genetic essence. I've had incidents before where I unknowingly received energy absorption, which then blocked further evolution, forcing me to restart as an amorph again. Normally, I shouldn't accept this trait, but since the circumstances have slightly changed, and I have the transcendent system, even if it's currently not useful for me, there's a possibility it could be used as transcendence material. I know the combinations for fusion traits, but the newly updated transcendent system is still an uncharted territory for me. If it's incomplete, it won't have any effect, so applying it shouldn't be an issue. The fact that incomplete traits don't trigger effects has already been proven through the spaceflight trait. After much deliberation, I accepted the energy absorption trait. As expected, there were no changes in my mouth or in my insides. Having received energy absorption, I continued to ingest the samples. Upon consuming the 5th sample capsule, the predation effect triggered. The trait I obtained was robust vitality, a trait I previously acquired through cockroaches. Since I already have regeneration, I don't really need it. If there are two similar traits, only the effect of the better one applies. With sufficient physical-related traits already, there's no need to consume a lesser-performing trait like robust vitality, apart from it being a material for regeneration. Just in case, though. While in the game, traits evaluated as not useful might have undisclosed purposes, as evidenced by the wings being used as transcendence materials. Subsequently acquiring robust vitality, I found myself with only one sky whale sample left. Honestly, it was a slightly disappointing outcome. No, gathering materials isn't so bad. Let's find significance in that. Without much expectation, upon consuming the final sample, a new trait emerged. Predation effect triggered. Successfully obtained gigantism, incomplete, genetic essence from the sky whale. Extracted gigantism, incomplete, from the biological trait sky whale. Do you want to apply gigantism, incomplete? If it were space flight, I would have acquired a complete trait, but unfortunately, it was a different trait. Gigantism. Gigantism is a universal trait possessed by every colossal creature with a size exceeding 50 meters. This translation aims to convey the details and nuances of the original text for English readers. The owner of the sample I just consumed, the sky whale or the quasi-embryo-like black galligan, possesses the trait of gigantism. Having this trait would have allowed me to use the gigantification technique. What a pity. Similar to how the monstrous tentacle trait enables the psychic breath, acquiring the gigantism trait allows transformation into a special state of gigantification. Upon gigantification, I could grow to around 20 meters tall and become incredibly powerful. Despite being limited to once a week, once gigantified, I become significantly formidable. It's not just about size, my physical abilities also scale up proportionally. A gigantified amorph would possess immense strength, enough to face a warship or even an entire city without flinching. Furthermore, the predation effect doubles the efficacy of traits and type effectiveness. If I had the gigantism trait in this state, I could easily exceed 50 meters. That would truly display a majestic presence worthy of the term space monster. Sigh. Regrettable, but inevitable. That was the end of the sky whale sample. From 8 sky whale samples, I acquired 4 traits: space flight, gigantism, energy absorption for material, and robust vitality. If only there weren't any limits, it would have been a significant harvest. Obtaining 4 traits from a single creature is remarkable. It's in the past now. There's no use getting annoyed. I shook my head to dispel irritation and reached for the remaining samples to consume. At that moment, the submandible auxiliary device beneath my jaw trembled. Simultaneously, rapid scenes flashed in my mind. The female cultist says, "Something seems suspicious." The male cultist asks, "What?" The female cultist shakes her head at the camera. The head of the autopsy team visited the genetic vault but hasn't returned from the cryogenic vault. The male cultist responds, huh? Why would they go in there? The female cultist continues, I don't know. Also, other researchers went in earlier, but they haven't come out yet. The male cultist stands up. I'll go check. If it seems odd, I'll report to the higher-ups. The scene ended with the male cultist with ram horns exiting the dark room. Oh no, I thought it had passed without incident, but it hadn't. That female cultist has a keen sense. Initially, the fire incident didn't raise much concern, but observing the odd behavior of the head of the autopsy team aroused suspicion. The third central control room is nearby. In about 5 minutes, the male cultist will arrive here. Capturing the male cultist itself isn't particularly challenging. I'm currently strengthened by the effect of the symbol of hunt. The issue arises after dealing with the male cultist. If the cultists aren't in contact, that perceptive female cultist won't just stand by. She'll undoubtedly contact the higher authorities, the first central control room or the monument security team. I need to neutralize the cameras. For that, I need a trait possessed by the metallic gremlins. I inserted the metallic gremlin samples into my mouth, and as the capsules passed through my throat, the genetic essence inside seeped into my system. Every time the essence dissolved, a text box appeared in front of me. Dwarfism, metal absorption. It didn't start well. After multiple dwarfism traits, the third was metal absorption, which I already had. I acquired dwarfism as a material and canceled the rest. Next, when I consumed the fourth capsule, the anticipated electromagnetic interference trait appeared. Great, just once more. Obtaining interference one more time would allow me to acquire a complete trait. However, despite consuming 2 more samples, no predation effect appeared. I now had only 2 chances left, and at this point I began to feel anxious. Should I go with the initial plan? Suddenly, I thought it might be better to go for the method of infesting and controlling the cultists. But that keen female cultist might be onto something. As seen in William's case, parasites aren't foolproof. While the male cultist may succumb, if that sensitive female cultist suspects anything unusual with her colleague, I might end up back where I started. That's not all. If caught with the parasitic colony trait, the situation will get even worse. Contemplating how to handle the female cultist, I swallowed the 7th sample. And then the text box appeared. Predation effect triggered. Successfully obtained electromagnetic interference, incomplete, genetic essence from the metallic gremlin. Extracting electromagnetic interference, incomplete, from the biological trait metallic gremlin. Would you like to apply electromagnetic interference, incomplete? Electromagnetic interference emits waves causing temporary malfunctions in devices powered by electricity. The completed trait spoke to me. There's no need for further contemplation.